Hello and welcome. My name is Gemstone, and today we are back in Our Life, Beginnings and Always. Now, before we start, this may be the last stream of this. We just have Drive and then whatever happens at the end of the summer, I suppose. So, potentially the last stream of this game, which is very bittersweet. I will miss it a lot, but it's been such a fun time, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. But I don't have work today, so we're going to be able to hopefully go a bit longer to make sure that we get it all done. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I guess time to get straight into it. So we're going to enter into Drive. Looks like we're venturing onto the road. Like a lazy cat, you stretched your arms above your head and yawned, blinking your eyes sleepily. The day was warm and pleasant, and you were lounging on the couch in the living room, finding it difficult to do much in that moment. Your moms and Liz had gone out shopping, looking for some new items for your sister to take back and decorate her college dorm with. Alright, Sis is leaving at the end of the summer. They had asked if you wanted to go with them, but you'd declined. For you, today was all about relaxation. Cove had dropped by to spend some time with you, content to join in with doing nothing. The two of you had been chatting idly as you lazed around, talking about the other things you had planned for the summer. You were sitting next to him. One of his legs was stiffly crossed over the other, and he had barely looked at you the entire time you'd been there. The day dragged on, and you found yourself yawning more and more often between conversations. You would... Dang it, the yawns always get me. You had almost dozed off completely, when suddenly a buzz rang out, disturbing the silence. Your phone was on its charger in the kitchen, so it couldn't have been that. Cove pulled his own phone from his back pocket and checked the screen. His movement had jostled you, so you tried to readjust your position to get it right again. It's my mom. After leaning forward and setting the phone on the coffee table in front of him, Cove hit the speaker button. Hey, what's up? Gemstone is here too. Hi, Cove. Hello, Gemstone. Aw, she's so pretty. Hi. Tired sounding. She's so pretty. Look at this hairstyle. Cove, baby, I just wanted to ask if you have a plan for all your junk. Cove made a small, outraged grumble, giving you a sidelong glance. It's not junk. It's important. Though you couldn't see it, you could tell by the sound of her voice that Cairo was smiling. But is that a yes or a no about the plan? He looked over at you, his mouth pulled into a tight smile. I'm still thinking about it. Gemstone. I'm gonna take the phone off speaker so me and Mom can go over this. It'll be quick. Without waiting for an answer, Cove took the phone from the table and pushed himself to his feet. He hit the speaker button again to turn it off and continued the conversation with his mom as he headed towards the door. Is he leaving? The lock clicked behind him as he exited the house, and he sank back onto the cushions, idly trying to decide what to do next. After electing to grab your own phone from its charger, you resumed your position on the couch, tapping away at the screen. Your mind drifted away from thoughts of Cove, and his phone call with all the many ways your device could distract you. It was an effective enough way to kill the time, and you had managed to do various little things when the door opened again and Cove returned. I hope you managed without me. You watched as Cove strolled over to where you were sitting. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, just... He sighed dramatically and let his forehead fall against the couch back, his ponytail flopping forward all over the front cushion. Oh, that sounds so cute. I know I just came back from visiting my mom, but... Well, last time I flew there, every time I'd just fly there and back, and so There's a lot of stuff I've left over there because I couldn't take it all with me on the plane. Now that I'm not going to be visiting her like I used to, I'll have to go get it at some point. Are we going on a road trip? He gave you a look that you thought seemed almost guilty. Some of it is pretty big, so it's not really practical to have it shipped. I can drive over and pick it up. When will you go? That's what my mom wanted to know. She thought it'd be best to do it soon before things get even busier. He paused and let out a soft sigh, his shoulders dropping, as if he really didn't want to be the one to have to tell you that. I think that's probably the idea that makes the most sense, too. It'd be good to get it over and done with. I'll be setting out as soon as I can. Oh, another trip already then. He sighed and dropped his head again. You could tell he wasn't any happier about having to go than you were about seeing him leave. Oh right, he came late this summer. He was visiting pretty late, and then apparently he's only been here for a bit and he's got to go back for all his stuffs. You didn't know what to say. These all seem kinda... I mean, it is a big deal for both of us, obviously. Fine seems rather curt, and are you just trying to get away from me seems... Yeah, you don't know what to say. Looking up again, you met his bright aquamarine eyes, finding a sad smile tugging on his lips. Oh. Suddenly, his eyebrows jumped, and his eyes lit up like a lamp. Why don't you come with me? You could come with me. What? You should come. My visits to my mom's are usually special, so she and I can spend time together. This time it's not like that. It's an errand. My plan is to drive out one morning, spend the night, and then we can pack up the car the next morning and turn right back around. It'll only take 2 days for the whole thing. You thought to yourself for a moment, amused by Cove's excitement. Are you sure it'd be okay if I go? Yeah, why not? I probably could use the company. It's a pretty long drive for one person. A sprinkling of color spread over his cheeks as he admitted quietly. And I'd just really like to have you around. Oh. Plus you'd have a chance to see my mom in person. I know she'd be happy to see you again. Yeah, because I probably haven't seen her since a few years ago, unless she's come down a little bit. You shrugged casually, smiling as you officially let Cove talk you into it. Let's do it. A road trip with just the two of us would be fun. I'll have to let my moms know, but as long as we've got nothing else important on the days we pick, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go. Other than being a boy and a girl, childhood friends, you know? Oh no, there's only one bed. Cove's face brightened, and you were sure the prospect of having a travel buddy made the task seem less tiresome. I'll call my mom back and tell her. We can pick a time right now. You spent some time together going over your schedules and making plans for when you could take the trip. You needed to fit it around both of your work schedules, which took a bit of doing, but came together in the end. Luckily, it was only a 2-day trip, so finding a couple free days in a row wasn't impossible. I would need 3 free days. One there, one back, and one recovery. It wasn't long before the dates were finally set, and all the plans were made. You were excited for the trip. A short trip sounded like the perfect way to spend some time. You could listen to music, eat snacks, and enjoy the open road. No matter what you thought about things, the morning when you were due to leave arrived. It was cooler than usual, the sun barely peeking over the tops of the houses. You stood outside your house, on the footpath near the road, waiting for Cove. You were feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep and an early wake-up. Oh yeah, a good night's sleep right before a trip. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm a excited not get to sleep very well before a trip person. With your travel bag clutched in one hand, you watched as Cove finished packing up his car. Sorry, another yawn. He had organized all sorts of things. Water bottles, snacks, and who knows what else. Cove insisted that he had everything under control and didn't need any help. At least you could rest easy, knowing that it was all taken care of. As you waited, you glanced over Cove's car. You knew it well. It used to belong to Mr. Holden, and when Cove had learned to drive, it passed to him. His dad had taken the opportunity to get a newer one. Valid. It was pretty old at this point, but had served both of them well so far. You just hoped it had enough life left in it to survive a trip as long as the one you were embarking on. The slam of a door closing made you jump. You snapped back to focus and saw Cove was walking towards you. He dusted his hands off on his pants and tilted his head towards the car. That's it. Ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready. He smiled and stepped aside, giving you space to situate your own bag where you wanted it. Once everything was safely inside, he glanced back at you. We should get started. It's gonna be a ways to go. Woo! Let's get this show on the road. He chuckled at your enthusiasm, shaking his head slightly. The two of you climbed into the car and buckled up, Cove in the driver's seat and you sitting shotgun. His eyes moved to you. Thanks again for coming on this trip with me. Of course, it's no problem. After checking the mirrors and starting the engine, you pulled out of the driveway, and the trip began. With a small sigh, you got cozy in your seat and watched the familiar houses in your neighborhood pass by. Cove reached over to turn on the radio. A crackle of static, mixed with the odd snippets of song, filled the car as he flipped through the stations. Mr. Holden's car was in good condition, but it was, well, older. There was no way to plug in a phone to play music, so the radio had to do. Eventually, he settled on classic rock station. Rock. Before sitting back and resting both hands on the wheel. Is this okay? Okay. So, I personally do not like rock. I do not like rock music. I don't like it at all. But I'm assuming that he would know what I would like, and so in this universe, potentially, I'm alright with rock music. So, we'll let him play his music. He's the driver. He gets what he wants. If I was going on a drive like this with a close friend like this, definitely would not listen to rock, but, you know, a headcanon. I assume he knows what I like, so we're gonna go with this. I still even can't be enthusiastic, even pretending that it's an alternate. Yeah, it works. He smiled, happy with the answer. Time flew back. Time flew by, and with it, the scenery outside your window became more and more unfamiliar. It was a little fluttery, being alone in the car with Cove for so long. There was nowhere else you would have rather been. Sorry, I am good at reading and speaking. There was nowhere else you would have rather been. Every now and then, you'd look over and sneak a glance at him, wondering what he was thinking about. Eventually, Cove broke the silence, clearing his throat softly before he spoke. It's been too long since you and I have spent time with my mom. I know she still comes to the neighborhood sometimes, but it's not even once a year. I'm always going to hers. I'm happy the two of us are doing this. Yeah, me too. Your elbow resting on the windowsill, you gazed out at a world that was slowly coming to life as the morning rolled on by. The sun climbed higher in the sky, forcing you to adjust the visor overhead to keep it out of your eyes. Hey, do you mind reaching back for me? Cove gave you a sidelong glance as he drove, indicating with a nod of his head and a tiny smile. I want some chips, the salt and vinegar ones. Ooh, good choice. That's a great flavor. Eat whatever you want too. I brought a bunch of everything. Stretching out the seatbelt to give yourself some space, you twisted in your spot and reached into the bag holding the snacks. Ew, a bot. Hi, Potato, welcome. How do I do this again? I always forget. Time to get rid of its text with the wise words of a spud. Hoyo! How are you, silly? I'm doing good. How are you? How do I delete this again? I always forget. Shield, highlight, chat settings. How do I delete messages? I always forget. Oh well, it's not like it says anything inappropriate, just annoying. Dead from fun, but still dead. I'm glad you had fun. I'm assuming it was a big thing then. You can just ban the bot instead of deleting the message. Oh, that's a good point. Ban. Ha! Thanks. I forgot about... well, no, I didn't know that. There we go. Oh, and it deletes it automatically. Whoop. Sorry. Banning gets rid of the message and makes sure the bot can't come back. Yippee, no more bots. Indeed. Thank you. It took a bit of effort to sort through the collection of goodies stuffed inside, but eventually the bag of chips crinkled beneath your fingers as you pulled them out and sat back in your seat. Here. Thanks. Do you mind opening it? His eyes lit up at the prospects of the snacks, and you shook your head in amusement, popping the top of the bag. Poured a few chips in his hand, held the open bag out towards him. Want me to feed them to you? Okay, what would be... That, I don't want to leave one of his hands occupied, like, constantly, because if he has chips in his hand, then he has to keep holding them, right? So maybe hold out the open bag? With a smile, he dug into the bag noisily, picking out a couple of chips between his fingers and popping them into his mouth. The sound of crunching and rustling filled the car as he reached over from time to time, taking a few more. Ultimately, he elected to drag out an entire handful at once, losing a few of the chips to the floor. After that, you rolled up the top of the bag and stowed the chips safely in the back again. Without eating any? There's no way. When you turned to the front, it was to find Cove crushing the fistful of chips into his mouth, crunching loudly. He wiped his hand on his pants absent-mindedly before gripping the wheel and spilling crumbs all over the place. Oh, Cove. We're gonna have to clean out the car after our trip. You laughed at that. You couldn't stop the amused sound from that escaped you, and when Cove raised a questioning eyebrow, you simply shook your head. The hours drifted by much the same way as that, with the two of you snacking and chatting as the days stretched on. It was fairly calm and quiet, traveling along the open road, and you find little in the way of interruptions. At one point you passed the "Welcome to Nevada" sign, and Cove gave a tiny cheer. He was in disbelief that the two of you were seriously all the way in another state like this. Nevada. Eventually you had to stop for gas, and made a detour at a small diner to grab a proper meal that didn't consist of chips and candy. After refueling both the car and your stomachs, the drive was back on, just as the sun began dipping beneath the horizon and bathing the sky in a wash of orange light. Oh, adorable, I agree. Although we were driving from before sunup and it's already sundown. Yikes, this is gonna be a big one, huh? Well, like, yeah, summer days are long. Yep, indeed. How long would that be? Before sunup, that would be like 4 or 5, I'd say. And then evening. So we've been driving for like over 12 hours. You crossed one state in that time? Nevada. What state are they in? Only 12 hours? Yeah. What state are they in again? I don't know. I don't know much about geography, or the states. The game takes place in Cali. So Cali to Nevada. I guess it depends where they are. That determines how long the state is. They are by the shore somewhere, but that's as far as I know. Cove informed you that there wasn't too much longer left to go. You were almost there. When night eventually fell in a blanket of darkness, the drive finally came to an end. Okay, I'm just saying, a 12-hour drive one way and then just sleeping and going right back, that's such a long weekend. There would definitely need to be a day in between to like hang out in the place that you go, right? And then a day for recovery afterwards. You would need 4 days in a row at least. But making a 12-hour trip, like the cost of the gas and everything, I would just make sure like a week-long trip. Just book the week off, go full out, like explore. A 12-hour drive and then taking it right back. That seems silly to me. Nah, get lost in a mall? Yeah. Explore the malls, explore the area, see some landmarks. Visit Kyra. Yeah, this would definitely be like a week long, or at least a few days. Now the whole trip is in a mall. Wait a sec. It's like Jumanji. But yeah, for me, I feel like I would figure out a way to make this like a vacation if it was a 12-hour drive. Maybe if it was like a 2 or 3 hour drive, maybe even up to 5 or 6, I could see it being a 2-day trip, but a full 12-hour day. You gotta spend some time there. Anyway, Cove pulled into the parking lot of Kyra's apartment building, the glow of the car lights disappearing as he turned off the engine and let out a heavy sigh. Ugh, we made it. We're here. The two of you exchanged tired smiles, having successfully and safely completed one half of the trip. You were relieved to have actually arrived, and eager to get out of the car and stretch your legs. You took the stairs up to the building together. After a knock, you were abruptly met by a flash of green hair as Kyra opened the door and immediately took her son in her arms. Aww. Ooh! New space! Aw, she's so cute! MILF. Anyway, there he is! My gigantic baby boy! Aw, she's so pretty. She squeezed him for a moment and then pulled back so she could examine his face. Are you even taller than the last time I saw you? Cove gave her a fond look as he patted the tops of his shoulders proudly. You say that every time I'm here. It doesn't even make sense right now. My last visit wasn't that long ago. He's so adorable. You've been Cove-starved forever? Here he is! Oh, what is it? It's, the boy. What is it? Oh, I'm trying to remember that meme. Rats. Ah, yeah. Here comes the boy. Something like that. Kyra simply laughed before letting him go fully and ushering the two of you into her apartment. Then she turned to you, a wide grin pulling at her lips. It's felt so long since there's even been a Jemmy stream. But glad you're streaming. Heck yeah! Yeah, I took a week off last week because I was away, but it is good to be back. It did feel like a while, but also like no time at all. Life be confusing. Kyra simply laughed before letting him go full— oh. As she turned to you, a wide grin pulling at her lips. Gemstone, it's so nice you came along with. And as a bonus, you've both arrived in one piece. Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's been a long time. Kyra beamed at you both, and while you would have loved nothing more than to settle down and rest after the drive, you could see she wasn't gonna let you go that easily. How was the trip? I admit I was just a pinch worried. You let Cove answer that. It was fine. No problems for us. Kyra clapped her hands together, and the bracelets around her wrist jingling. Oh, they're so pretty. I'm so proud. I can hardly believe how mature you both are. Where did all those smarts come from? Cove ran a hand over his hair with an awkward chuckle. I don't know. Maybe I got some from my parents. His mom looked up at him deeply, her eyes glistening as she shook the sentimentality off with a wave of her hand. Any Hoosies? Oh, that's so cute. You have to be half asleep already, huh? I don't want to keep you up much longer. Early morning in any Uzis. Oh, okay. It was right there. Early morning in any Uzis. How do you want to deal with the sleeping arrangements? I've only got my own room in Coves, though the living room couch isn't bad, and there was only one bed. I called it. You keep your bed, Mom. Gemstone can use mine, and I'll sleep on the couch. Or the floor, whatever's easiest. It doesn't matter for one night. So silly. Kyra laughed out loud, startling you both. You raised an eyebrow at her outburst, giving her a quizzical look. Oh, she's so cute. Oh yeah, you'll just stay on the floor. You couldn't handle that much back when you were 13 with both your parents in the room. Cove blushed a dark red and gaped, completely unprepared for her to pull out that embarrassing moment from the past. Wow, they were so adorable, the memories. Yeah. Mom! She knows he's sensitive? Nah, that's friendly teasing. That should be fine. Put a hand on Cove's arm. Should we tease him too? There's nothing wrong with that. He laughed it off. Thankfully, the tension in the air Tension? Come on. We're all smiling. We're having a good time. There's no real tension. Thankfully, the tension in the air dissipated as Kyra and Cove chuckled along with you. I'll sleep on the couch in the living room. Cove shook his head, dismissing the idea immediately. When traveling, I am a floor troll, I am a couch troll, I am a chair troll. I will sleep anywhere but the bed to allow people to have that. And even if I'm supposed to be sharing the bed with like a friend or something, I'll still probably sleep on the floor or the couch. Cove shook his head, dismissing the idea immediately. No. You're the guest. I don't want to take your bed. Unless. Well, I still don't want to take it from you. And I said it first. Come on, Kyra. Come on, Kyra. Say it. Say it. Why not just share? The two of you narrowed your eyes at each other stubbornly. Kyra took that as... Let me start over. The two of you narrowed your eyes at each other stubbornly. Kyra took that as her cue to step in. Let the romance happen. Yes, Kyra, pop off, queen. My house, my rules, then. And you know who I have to side with. I'd like you to take the bed, Gemstone. You hesitated a moment, but it seemed you had to accept the hospitality. With a small sigh, you gave in. Gasp. No, Kyra, how could you? Come on, you were supposed to be our wing woman. Or his wing woman. Both wing women. You should have let them be a couple. Alright. Cool. Caw wing woman. So, would you be okay with me sleeping on the floor in the room? I'd rather be there than out in the open in the living room, even if there is a couch. Oh, they meant the bedroom floor. Oh, I thought it was like the living room floor, and I was like, why wouldn't you just sleep on the couch? I'm so smart, guys. I'd prefer if you were out on the couch. Yeah, you can sleep there. Kyra giggled softly, drawing your attention back to her. Do it, do it, do it. Oh. All the funny stuff aside, you need to get some sleep for tomorrow. Seems like you're setting yourselves up to not get any. I know that sounds really captious, but I am a mom. I have to say these things. Come on, we're not little kids having a sleepover. We're responsible adults, right, Gemstone? No, we're not. Yes, very responsible. Is this one sarcastic? Because that's what I would be. No, we're not. I am Cove, though. Cove is, so I can't say the same. You simply smiled. Yes, very responsible. She gave the two of you a suspicious look, and you stood up straighter, trying to prove your point. I'll leave it at that then, for now. Just remember that the walls are thin in this apartment. If you can't settle down and sleep, I might have to separate you. We'll be good. Perfect. Kyra clasped her hands together, her bracelets softly tinkling against each other again. It's only getting later, so I better let you prepare for bed. She nodded towards the hallway and gave you a small smile. A small smile. There we go. I'll play hostess for a sec and show you where the bathroom is first, Gemstone, and where you'll be staying the night. Thank you. You hoisted your travel bag back over your shoulder and followed Kyra and followed behind Kyra and down the hallway. Took me a second there. And followed behind Kyra and down the hallway. Cove shuffled behind you, disappearing into the bedroom, while his mom had you go to the restroom. The apartment was small, but nicely decorated in soft, cool colors, with plenty of artwork hanging on the walls to give it character. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention, I love this black backsplash color. Such a beautiful aquamarine. Very cozy living space. Cute, cute, cute. I like it. It was stylish, and exactly what you would have expected from someone like Kyra. Ooh, purple! After being shown the bathroom and wishing Kyra a good night, you headed into the room and found Cove already there. Ah, this doesn't look at all like his room back home, huh? Still seashells, though, which tracks. And purple. I guess it is. Would it be his bedroom or a guest bedroom? His bedroom, I think. Anyway. He had changed into his sleepwear for the night as well, and set aside his glasses already. Looking around, you found the bedroom to look much the same as the rest of the apartment, but with small ocean elements you were sure Cove must have enjoyed while he stayed there. All in all, the room was pretty and clean, though it almost looked more like a hotel guest room than a bedroom. Ah, that's what I said. I mean, he does only come over for a little while at a time, so I guess that makes sense. On the same... I'm so good at pattern recognition. Cove only spent a few weeks out of the year there, so it made sense that it wasn't especially lived in. Ah, he's got his Phoenix shirt on. What do you think? It's pretty nice, huh? Mom always keeps it clean and everything, even when I'm not here. Oh, no glasses. Sleep, Cove. It's a great room. Cool. I'm glad you like it. He seemed pleased enough with the response, and gave you a small smile, before opening a zip on his bag. When you went back to the room you jumped in bed and under the covers, just as Cove was shuffling into his sleeping bag on the floor. You waited until he was settled in before you flipped off the lights, and a soft glow from outside peeked through the blinds, casting shadows over the floor. You closed your eyes, blocking everything out. Night, Gemstone. Night, Cove. Sleep well. Oh, they didn't even close the curtains. I get that it's for lighting, but this would have to be closed, the curtains closed, a blanket over my head, or a sleep mask or something. I cannot sleep with any light. Another bit of uninteresting gem lore. Needs the darkness of the abyss to sleep properly. The room grew quiet as the two of you. Ooh, okay. I'm so on it today. The room grew quiet as the two of you wound down for the night, and you found yourself listening to the sounds of the city outside the window. The noise out there was so different to what you were used to back home. Cars zooming past and people out having fun, instead of crashing waves and the ocean winds cocooning your house in their embrace. Ah, so we're in more of like a residential or city area. They did say apartment. Cove shifted around in his sleeping bag, making the fabric crinkle loudly. I've outgrown this thing. I should have checked it earlier, but the trip was kind of short notice. Are you really sure you don't want the bed? I'm much smaller after all. I don't mind trading places. No, it's alright. It's more important that you're comfortable. I'll be comfortable on the floor, dude. I'm a floor troll. Heck yeah. Oh, that was so soft. You're already doing me a big favor by coming here in the first place. Just let me do this one thing and give you the bed. That's what I want for this trip, okay? But you're driving. You've got to be well rested and focused, and I would not let up. I would switch. I'll sleep on the floor with you if I have to. Pursing your lips tight, you gave a small nod and admitted defeat. Weakness! Keep fighting! Alright, I'll have the bed. Thanks, Cove. Let those two eep! He made a small noise but said no more. With an accepting sigh, you pulled the covers up under your chin and got comfortable. The next day dawned, bringing with it the sounds of birds chirping happily outside the window. You opened your eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the light as you tried to recall where you were, and remembering the unfamiliar sight of Cove's second bedroom. Should we go back and let the... I kind of want to see what he would say. I want to see what he'd say. Rewinding time. Why don't we share? It's big enough. Got the blushies. Gemstone. Cove was perfectly still on his back, his eyes firmly fixed on the ceiling above him. I told my mom I was gonna sleep on the floor. Aw, he's embarrassed. Aw. He sounded tense, though you hadn't meant for the offer to make him so. There was a perfectly good bed in the room that you would both fit in. And besides, you liked the idea of having him close. You've done it in the past. Yeah, I know, but it probably isn't the best idea right now. I was a pretty dumb kid. You're already doing me a big favor by coming here in the first place. Just let me do this one thing and give you the bed. At least I offered. That's what I want for this trip, okay? Pursing your lips tight, you gave a small nod and admitted defeat. The other timeline doesn't exist. Alright, I'll have the bed then. Thanks, Cove. He made a small noise but said no more. With an accepting sigh, you pulled the covers up under your chin and got comfortable. The next day dawned, bringing with it the sounds of birds chirping happily outside the window. You opened your eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the light as you tried to recall where you were, remembering the unfamiliar sight of Cove's second bedroom. You reached over to turn off the alarm you had set. I will not wake up on my own, but on a trip that we had to get up, I would set multiple alarms. The 6th alarm that I set. Whoops. It took you a moment to find the off button on your phone, and you sighed in relief when the noise finally stopped. Oh yeah, that's a mood. The sound of Cove shuffling around the room drew your attention, though you weren't surprised. He had always been a morning person. Sitting up in your bed, you let a yawn and stretched your arms above your head. I so wish that was a bit, but it's not even a bit. That's just my reality. Every single time I see this dang word. Okay. After a long drive like that, I'd probably feel refreshed in the morning, but then by like noon I'd be dead. So, you were quite refreshed. There was a lot to do, and you were ready and willing to get into it and get ready for the trip home. Now, spend time here. Anyway. Good morning. How did you sleep? Pretty good, thanks. You? Yeah, it was fine. You pulled yourself out of bed, grabbing a fresh change of clothes and your toiletries before heading to the bathroom. After all that, you met Cove back in his room. He was sitting on the floor when you entered, sorting through a bunch of stuff in a box, determining what to bring and what to leave behind. Hey, can you pull out the stuff in those drawers? You nodded, though he hadn't even looked up from his task, so you knew he wouldn't have seen. Heading over to his drawers, you started the task of taking out various items and setting them on the ground in front of Cove. Oh hey, look at this! When you turned towards the sound of Cove's voice, you found him digging through one of the drawers beneath the bed. I thought I just sort Here's something I definitely need to bring. Neat. Craning your head, you got a better glimpse of what he was holding. An old yellowing book. When he opened it up, there were a few dried, pressed flowers between the pages. Those had been gifts you'd given to him for his mom's place. Something for him to remember you by, and to make his time here less lonely. Oh, that's so sweet. He kept them the whole time. I was only lending you those. You started to feel emotional. Cove looked up at you when you sniffled quietly, seeming concerned. You wiped away the tears that were building in your eyes, feeling a little silly. Sorry. He smiled at you, his face softening. Why would you apologize? It's alright. It's wonderful. Thank you. These are special. It was important, having a piece of you with me when we were apart. We should get a pic of us together in this room, that way anytime you're here, you remember that I was here, and it's so cute. I feel the same way. That's why I gave them to you. Cove smiled, pleased that the feeling was mutual, but then the expression became more amused. And did you keep the souvenirs I brought back? Of course. His grin grew to completion. Thanks. Another hour passed by in silence, and you were happy to see you were making great progress with Cove's room, with only the closet left to sort through. You took a minute to take a mouthful of water from your bottle, and perched on the edge of the bed, feeling productive. Cove glanced over at you and paused, putting down the tape gun he had been using to seal up his boxes. You raised an eyebrow. You know, it's really strange to see you sitting in this room. Why? He frowned a little, his eyes distant and his voice quiet when he spoke next. During the visits to Mom's, when I was sitting alone in this room, I'd sometimes think about how you weren't here. It was a weird feeling at the time, that you just weren't around. And now that you're here, in this exact place, I don't know how to explain the feeling. He shrugged it off and smiled a little, as though he'd said enough already and didn't want to risk sounding silly. That's so cute. Life is pretty confusing is all. I missed you so much when you were gone. His brows crinkled as he looked at you solemnly, his eyes bright with emotion. I missed you too. All the time. Now kiss. Potato, I'm feeling that energy. All the screaming. Right? The tension, yeah. It made you feel better to know that somehow. It's turning me into a MASH tater. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. This whole time I've been like, I so get what they're thinking all the time now. It made you feel better to know that somehow. Oh, to know that somehow. To know that when you were stuck at home missing his company, that he was missing yours too. He looked away satisfied, heading over to the closet, and the last of the items to be sorted. Before long, every box, closet, and drawer had been thoroughly combined through. Had been thoroughly combed through, with the items either Uh-oh. I'm slowly losing my ability to speak. Before long, every box, closet, and drawer had been thoroughly combed through, with the items either neatly packed up in boxes or organized and returned to their proper place. In spite of that, she's had opportunities to push the relationship forward and passed on them. Don't call me out like that, Nintendian. I wanted it to feel natural. I'm not a super flirty person. So called out, wow. That's fair though. I'm sorry. With a sigh of relief, you glanced around the bedroom and the work you had done together. Oh man. We're done. Good job to us. I'm gonna change out of my PJs for the drive. Why, PJ drive? Yeah. When the two of you headed out into the living room, ready to get everything finalized and hit the road, you found Kyra in the kitchen, pouring a cup of tea. Cove headed towards her, leaning casually against the counter that divided the two spaces. Oh, she's so pretty. Hey, you didn't have to get up so early. Are you crazy? Of course I have to see you off before you go. You can't sneak away while I'm out cold. So early. We've been up for a while packing, right? How much sleep do we get? Like 2 hours? She beamed at him, and in all honesty, seemed more happy to be up and getting ready for the day. Do you want some breakfast? I've got some muesli, or some eggs and toast. Oh, and some of that fruity cereal you used to love. That's okay. We should really eat on the road. Kyra smiled sadly, a little disappointed, but she seemed to understand that your time was running thin. I thought you might say that. In that case, I've packed some snacks for the road. Even if you don't end up eating them, take it anyway just in case. You can always feed them to Cliff when you get home. And tell him I said hi. Cove laughed and shook his head, knowing his dad would love nothing more than to polish off whatever food Kyra had prepared for you. I may be playing a game, so sorry for silence. All good. Also, if only they kissed. Wait, wrong. Oh? If only they slept together, not like that. Yeah. After all, the walls were paper thin. Anyway. Thanks, Mom. You really didn't have to. Thank you for the snacks. I'm sure they'll come in handy with this guy around. Cove scoffed and playfully rolled his eyes, earning a giggle from Kyra. I don't doubt it. Like father, like son. She returned your smile with one of her own, before putting her cup of tea aside. Well, I'll help you get the car packed. Her voice is fluctuating. I know that. I'm sorry. I can't remember what it was. Well, I'll help you get the car packed. Something like that? No, deeper. Voice go wee-woo, yeah, basically. Sure, thanks. The three of you got a move on, taking the boxes from Cove's bedroom and heading down to fill the back seat of the car, until there was barely an inch of space left in the back and trunk. It's still pretty a goober. Thanks, Potato. With all of you helping, it only took a couple of trips to move everything, and you were done before you knew it. Then it was truly time to say goodbye. You convened back inside the apartment, where Kyra looked over the two of you with a quiet smile. It was great to see you both. Thank you for coming. She gave each of you a hug, and you felt a little sad that you hadn't been able to spend more time with her. Exactly. It was good to see you too, Mom. Cove embraced her in return, the two of them holding on to each other for a few seconds longer. I'll miss you, but I'll visit again soon. You better. Hey, we should make plans for you to visit us too. I'll let you know when it's settled. I'd love that. Kyra bundled all the stuff she prepared into a bag and handed them over to you. You took a quick peek at what she had packed. There was fruit, nuts, seeds, hard-boiled eggs, and some veggie sticks. Ah, that type of snacks. Oh, good to see we've got some fresh food options now. The snacks I brought weren't. Kyra shook her head at him and let out a soft laugh, as though she wouldn't have expected anything else. I seriously hope you're feeding yourself better than that at home. Yeah, of course. Just not on trips. Trips are for fun food. I can live with that then. She looked over him fondly, her eyes at last focusing on his face and filling with emotion. Oh, she looks so sad. I'm going to miss you, baby. Me too. Thank you for letting us come. No problem at all. You're welcome any time. Kyra put an arm around you both, pulling you tight to her sides for one final squeeze. Have a safe trip. We will. With a last goodbye, you exited the apartment, though Cove hesitated for a moment in the door, his expression distant. You weren't sure what he was doing, though you tentatively took a step towards him. Everything okay? Your voice seemed to bring him back to earth, and he shook his head to clear his thoughts, his green hair swaying from side to side. Yeah, let's go. With that, the two of you headed back down to the car, ready to make the long trip home. Soon enough, you were on the wide-open road with a car full of Cove's things, and only one destination, Sunset Bird, California. The drive went as smoothly as could be expected, with the morning slowly creeping into midday as the miles flew by. The day passed in a whir of open road and sunshine, and before you knew it, it was early afternoon. By that point, you had already crossed the state line. Cove announced that he planned a little stop on the way home. He was quite pleased with himself as you arrived at the precipice. As I said, I don't know geography very well. Is the Grand Canyon there? Where are they? Nope, the Redwood National Park. Okay. I have no idea. But hey, we went here on our camping trip like 5 years ago. In the story. Not me in real life. Shaded beneath a canopy of enormous redwood trees, you drove along. Yeah, the camping trip. Where they get together. Grand Canyon is more Arizona territory? Ah. Cool. And stare into each other's eyes. Yeah. Ah. When Cove parked the car, you pushed the door open to get out. And the first thing you did was look up. Enormous redwood trees surrounded you on all sides, their massive trunks shooting straight up into a canopy of foliage overhead. There were too many of them to count, stretching on and on as far as you could see. You squinted against the sunlight that was peeking through the leaves and dancing on the paths around you. Ah, that sounds so pretty. It's great, right? He smiled at you from over the roof of the car, before glancing around the place fondly. Remember the trip our families took here that one summer? It was cool going on a journey and seeing the forest in person, even if we didn't stay very long. And I guess we can stay for even less this time, but oh well. It just seemed like a good time to stop by. Who knows when we'll get another chance. His voice got a little softer at the end. It seemed to be bittersweet for him, being in a place he was so fond of, but not having the time to appreciate it fully. Relatable. You were pleased to have stopped there. It was a beautiful place to stretch your legs and take in some fresh air. Thanks for bringing me here. Cove smiled, shoving his hands in his pockets and dipping his head. No problem. The two of you walked around for a while, completely dwarfed by the sheer scale of the redwoods. It kind of put your view of yourself, and everything, in a strange perspective. You took in a lungful of clean forest air, listening to the sounds of birdsong and the cool breeze rustling through the underbrush, taking advantage of the space to move around freely. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. I want to be in a forest. However you felt about being there, it was a totally different scene than sitting in that old car for hours and hours. You walked closer to Cove. He seemed tense when you approached, but he didn't move away. Eventually he relaxed a little, and the two of you walked along in a comfortable silence. Being here again, you couldn't help but reminisce on what else had happened during the trip you had taken all that time ago. There were a lot of things that had reminded you of it recently. You looked over at Cove, who seemed to be lost in the peace of the place, and you wondered if any of it crossed his mind. Smiling at the sight, you thought back on what had been a highlight of that long-gone vacation. We spent the night in the loft together. Elizabeth teased us. Our families were so close. Remember how a bird stole your dad's lunch? Should we mention it? I mean, we did already bring it up yesterday, so maybe our families? Our families were so close. Back then, and still now. We've done so many things together. Cove chuckled and shook his head, just as you were thinking back on how your families had started to come together. Yep, we're just one big happy neighborhood, huh? That's a weird way to put it, but alright. You continued chatting about the trip a little while longer, about the things you had seen and done and even eaten. A lot of the memories Cove had of the trip were similar to your own, but you were also surprised to hear a few other things from his point of view. So much had happened that there was no shortage of things to talk about. The place certainly had a nostalgic quality about it. Your spirits were light as you ambled past information boards and picnic areas. But before long, you decided it was time to bring this short stop to an end and head back to the car to get on the road again. Cove sighed when you finally reached the vehicle, jangling the keys in his hand before unlocking the doors. I wish we didn't have to go, but we're gonna be responsible and not stay longer than we should. How grown up of you. He smiled slightly, and with that, the two of you jumped into the car, buckled in, and he put it in drive. You were getting closer and closer to town as the sun started setting, though you were still far enough away that the radio stations were unfamiliar to you. Oh, this is so pretty. Oh, he's so cute. Look at his hair. Also, the transparent glasses trick so you can see the eyes, so valid. It's such a pretty CG. Cove twisted the dial this way and that before stumbling onto a channel with a song he seemed to like. That was a rare gift from the fates in a sea of static, strange radio jockeys, and grating tunes. Yep, that's the radio. Ah. His face immediately brightened at the sound of it, and he drummed his fingers along the bottom of the steering wheel happily. Oh, he smiled. Sitting back in his seat, he bobbed his head and shimmied his shoulders in time to the tune, all while mouthing along to the words. Occasionally, he even lifted one hand from the wheel to gesture with his fingers for a specific line. You sang along. Cove raised a pleased eyebrow at your vocalization. Emboldened by you, Cove decided to speak the words rather than lip-syncing. Your voices mixed together, slowly creeping louder and louder as you belted out the words to the song. Eyes, blink, blink, face, adorable, blah. Agreed. He's so cute. Also, this art is so pretty. I love the hard shading is done so well here with the airbrushed ends. Oh, I want to learn from this style. It's gorgeous. Every now and then, a word would be sung wrong, and by the end you were both laughing too much to continue. The song ended. Oh, this, calm face is so pretty. Okay, actually, I'm just gonna do something real quick. I hope this doesn't mess anything up. There we go. I'm just gonna... The VOD will have the text in front of it, so I just took a screenshot for the thumbnail. Without the chat. The song ended, and Cove reached over to start cycling through the radio stations again. Upon finding nothing tolerable, he flipped the dial off in defeat and leaned back in his seat with a sigh. You can press H to remove the text? I remember there was a button to get rid of the text box. Oh yeah, I can get rid of it. Oh, I guess I could just do that for a temporary moment and then in the VOD it'll be there. Oh no! There we go. I'm at the game text box? Oh! Really? Oh, if only I had known that. Oh. Oh. Oh, if only I'd known that all along. That would have been so good. Thank you for the tip. Oh, man. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at his cute arms. Adorable. So now get rid of this chat box and you can get a pretty picture for the thumbnail. Yeah. Boop. Blink. Boop. There we go. We should just sit here for the rest of the stream looking at this gorgeous picture. I'm just kidding. Anyway. Oh, they did... Sorry, I'm looking at the art now. They did a brown for the inner lines so that it softens the look of it a lot. They have some slight line variation, a little bit of messiness, so it feels very like alive and natural. I love their style of shading here. The two-tone cell shading is so lovely. Transparent glasses, heck yeah, and this profile is just mwah, top tier. Oof. Alright. Art eyes. My art eyes have picked up something and I love it. Anyway, as much as I would like to keep looking at this forever, we should get back to it. I should do a study of this later. You rested your head on your hand and stared out the window as the sky darkened, watching the landscape slowly melt into more familiar views. The miles went on, and any energy you had earlier was beginning to drain away. You imagined home and your family. You'd be there together soon. You know, I've spent all these years living in Sunset Bird, and taking a few weeks each summer visiting my mom in that second room. It's not gonna happen anymore. Not really. I can still see my parents, but the way it all works between us has changed. Forever. Yep, that do be growing up, huh? He paused, the silence stretching. A serious look settled on his face, his thoughts far away. He's so pretty. Ugh, look at him. You said nothing. We're thinking. Cove stared straight ahead, down the long, long road. The path looked like it'd never end from where you were, but that wasn't true. Eventually, he found a few more words to say. I think it's good we were able to do this trip, without any parents or chaperones. It was just us. We did it all. We did it all. He's so cute. I don't know. I feel a little more independent now. A little more ready for what's ahead. Aww. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. I don't... If we don't respond, does that make him sad? Yeah. It's like a real first step to be on our own all the time. It'll be here before we know it. The topic seemed to wear on Cove, and he made an attempt to find something else to speak on. So, I'm kinda sad about getting back. I'm gonna miss having you right here tonight. Right there tonight. Aww. Did he not mean to say that out loud? He grimaced and leaned forward, his shoulders tense and his eyes hyper-focused on the road ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to sound weird or anything. It's just nice to hang out. That isn't strange. I can understand it. Cove gave you a small smile, one that you returned, and the two of you fell into a more comfortable silence. The sky outside grew ever darker as the hours passed by, the stars blinking on like tiny fireflies painted onto a canvas of blue. Oh, that sounds so pretty. The scenery continued transitioning between open roads, industrial areas, and beach towns, becoming increasingly recognizable as time went on. You felt somewhat disconnected from the world around you as you watched it through your window, your tired mind growing hazy. Oh my gosh. My brain was just like, and the game ends when we crash into a... The last scene is just headlights, and then the game just ends. Like some of those freaking anime with just a crazy ending that's so upsetting. Just like a fully wholesome anime and then just cuts. Oh no. No, I'd die. Yeah. I'd burst into tears and my heart would implode into a void. Yeah. I don't know why my mind is like that, but... Your tired mind growing hazy. It was a strange, reflective feeling, but peaceful nonetheless. Soon enough, the world would return to you, and you'd find your feet firmly on the ground. It couldn't be helped. The adventure would end. Life would continue, but your memories would linger on. I'm sorry, now just picturing the headlights after this moment, it feels so, like... Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Potato, I'm sorry. I'm normal and healthy-minded and fine. It would just be so funny. No, I wouldn't. Glagus, I mean, I would find it funny. I find it funny. Nuh-uh, me hurt, bleh. Okay. I'm sorry, it's just so... And then the summer ended. Potato, close your ears. I wake up surrounded by my family. You've been in a coma. Cove died that night. So sorry. I'm so sorry. It faded to white right after I thought about it. Oh, I'm evil. Sorry. Alright. I'm in a little bit of a silly mood, apparently. Anyway. And then summer ended. No, I don't want to move on. Sad. Why is this one gray? Maybe it's like a new one. Anyway. I'm kind of sad I don't want to move on, but it's time for the end, I suppose. The next step. Moths bounced against your window, attracted by the light of evil. Sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Evil gem. I'm sorry. Moths bounced against your window, attracted by the light of your room. A siren call in the slowly darkening sky. Just as the day was coming to an end, so too would summer. Liz would be moving back into the dorms before long. Luckily, Lee had been able to come and stay for a short trip before her own new journey began. She'd officially been accepted into her first choice college a few weeks ago. Congratulations, Lee. This was her last chance to see you all in person for... You flicked through your plans for the next few months, realizing that you didn't even know when you'd next have the opportunity for everyone to be in the same place again. It was hard to think that you'd likely be seeing even less of your cousin going forward, but you were delighted that she was pursuing her dreams. Lamau giving congrats to a not real character. They're real in my heart. Characters are about as real to me as real people, so... I have a very good brain that works properly and distinguishes reality from fiction. The hang moment has some branching paths that overlap with Baxter's story if you have the DLC. It counts as the same moment shared between the two options on the screen. That's why it's gray instead of showing the padlock. Fair enough. Right, so there's the alternate romance path, so then that has options for both of them. Gotcha. Thank you. That's cool. I wonder if I might get the DLC. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, if I should. Because we'd have to start it all over again, which I don't know if I really feel like doing on stream. But I might do it on my own time. I don't know. Next year? Maybe. Maybe we'll come back to it some other time. Highly recommended if you enjoyed the story. I have. This is so sweet. You never have to stream any Goober. I know, but I want to. It makes me feel productive. I just love hearing people talking about this game. Yeah, it's so cute. Well, While you were still with each other, your family was going to have dinner together. As ever, the Holtons were tagging along too. Let's do that tropical place, just for the summer feel, you know? Chinese is great like any time of year, but the tropical place for the summer. Your destination was that tropical place. You hadn't really discovered the tropical restaurant until you were a bit older, but everyone's enthusiasm has resulted in so many visits that you'd more than made up for lost time. Liz and Lee were excited to squeeze in another trip before setting off again. Technically, you were getting ready to go out, though your mind was only half on the task. It was a pleasantly warm evening, the kind that epitomized the vacation feeling, and you were in no mood to spoil it by rushing around. It was strange to think that summer was coming to an end, yet you wouldn't be returning to school. That pattern had been in place for as long as you could remember, and had come to feel like a natural rhythm, as inescapable as the coming of the tide. This was the first time that you were going to be able to set your own tune. Whatever came next was entirely up to you. Yeah, it is a very weird feeling, that first, and even a few years after the start of being finished school. It is uncertain, but it's exciting. So you were nervous, but ready. Breaking from the structure of the old routine was scary, you could admit that. Yet you didn't want to be a child forever. You were going to hold your head up high and face the future. Mom called up from downstairs, tearing you from your thoughts as she told you it was time to head off. You raced downstairs, looking forward to the evening. Ooh! Different car! Everyone piled into the car. While it was marketed as being suitable to hold 5 people, in practice it made for a very tight fit. Yeah, this middle seat hardly counts. Your moms sitting in the front were fine. You, Liz, and Lee were squished into the back, Lee in the middle, wedged between you and your sister. But Mom was an excellent timekeeper. Thanks to her efforts, you pulled up near the restaurant on time. The process of getting out of the car was slightly easier than squeezing into it, with much less coordination required to release seatbelts than to secure them. Indeed. You gave Lee a hand as she clambered out from the middle seat, then headed into the building as a group. A waiter greeted you as you entered. Ma let him know how many of you there would be in total, and he went to arrange a table that met your needs. He returned promptly to guide you to your seats. You perched comfortably in your chair, your head held aloft as if buoyed by today's good fortune. Your family settled down around you, all cheerful and looking forward to the evening ahead. I thought for sure I would mess that up. Your drinks order had just been taken when the Holtons came through the door. They were pointed in your direction, though with Mom waving an arm in the air it was hardly necessary. Cove and Mr. Holton came to join you at the table. As greetings were being exchanged, Cove took a seat opposite to you. It had been left empty by unspoken acknowledgement that you and Cove would be wanting to sit together. I'm just gonna take a quick drink to try and clear my voice a little. There we go. Water. Okay, let me try this again. As greetings were being exchanged, Cove took a seat opposite to you. It had been left empty by unspoken acknowledgement that you and Cove would be wanting to sit together. Mr. Holden sat beside him. It's great to see you. Glad you could make it. Hello, everyone. You wouldn't believe how hungry I am. You came to the right place, then. There was some laughter, though Liz groaned playfully, shaking her head at Mom's sense of humor. Growing up, she'd have complained, and Mom would have responded by making another comment. Liz had mellowed over the years, but she still made a show of despairing at Mom's jokes. Her reaction to them had become a joke in its own right. Menus were soon passed around, and a temporary hush fell over the table as everyone read. Are we going to see everyone on the same screen together? Probably not, but that would be fun. It didn't last long, punctured by comments about what people had eaten here before, and light chatter about what people were considering tonight. As if half of us aren't going to get the exact same thing as we always do. Once the waiter had disappeared with your orders, Cliff piped up. So, I've got some good news. Kyra's making a trip out here tomorrow. Ah! Cove nodded, turning from his father to the rest of the table. Yeah, we talked about it and figured this was a good time for everyone. Ah, we should have got the dinner the next day or something so that everyone could have. That's great. Everyone reacted positively to the news, though Ma looked wistful. Yeah! If only we had known. Here we are having a big meal without her. If we'd waited one day, she could have joined us. Mom patted Ma on the back, gently nudging her from the realm of possibilities and what-ifs and back to the evening that was going so well. Chin up. Lee and Liz will still be here tomorrow. We'll just have to throw another get-together and keep the fun train chugging along. Ma smiled warmly, taking Mom's hand in hers. That's true. There's plenty to celebrate right now, but there will be more good news and good times on the horizon. Right. And speaking of, that's not all we've got either. Mr. Holden's eyes were soon alight as he sat straight up in his chair, face angled towards the sun. Oh, Cove got into a college. He barely let a beat go by before nudging Cove with his elbow, pushing him to follow up on the announcement. He was the very picture of a proud papa. Cove shied from the limelight, ducking his head down and staring at his lap as he spoke. Oh! Well, it's just I've switched over to working full-time instead of only part-time. Plus, I've been looking at apartments. There's a few I can choose from. He flicked his gaze up at everyone around the table, a smile creeping over his face. I'll be pretty busy going forward. Apartments. He was moving. Cove was going to move out of his dad's house. After 10 years, he wasn't going to be your neighbor anymore. Mr. Holden gripped one of Cove's shoulders and gave it a loving shake. His excitement couldn't be contained. Incredible. Cove's actually going to make it into adulthood. It's a miracle. Wow, how time changes, indeed. Mr. Holden leaned back in his chair, staring up at the ceiling in mock wonder. I wasn't convinced I'd be able to rear a kid all the way to this point, but thankfully I lucked out and got the best boy a dad could have asked for. Apartments in 2016 California? Lies. Well, maybe he's looking somewhere else. Oh no. Oh, oh that makes me sad. Dad. Cove blinkered his vision with his hands on the side of his face, temporarily blocking his father from sight. Despite his genuine bashfulness, which left him unable to meet anyone's eyes after all the attention thrust his way, he was happy. Thanks. I was really lucky too. You're a good dad. Ah, come here. Mr. Holden threw an arm around Cove's neck, pulling him into as close of a hug as the seating allowed. He rubbed his cheek on the top of his son's head while Cove chuckled, accepting the affection with good humor. You looked around at the faces of the company here. You had been on this journey with everyone here for years, seeing them falter and grow, and they had watched you go through the same. Now you were striking out on a new path. Cove was leaving his family home. Liz was heading back to college while Lee was starting at hers. You were all heading in different directions, to different destinations. Some near and some far, but it wouldn't be long until you were all going your own way. Your heart swelled with pride for everyone. You held your head aloft as you looked forward, literally and metaphorically. It was amazing how far you'd all come. I feel like if I was this person, if I was the gemstone that I'm playing in this story right now, it would be very bittersweet. Because having connections that long, having such close friendships with everyone, such close relationships, that would be difficult to leave behind. As I am in real life, I've always been pretty independent, so I was actually not super, it wasn't really tough to leave home. Not like it was bad or anything, but I've just been really independent my whole life, so I like my space and stuff, so if this character, it would be bittersweet, longtime friends, close to family, all that, but for me, it's like, heck yeah, moving forward. You were sure that you would face each day that came head on, knowing that you had knowing that you had people who cared about you backing you up, even if it was from a distance. You couldn't wait to see what happened next. Cove brought some attention to himself with a clearing of his throat and a small interjection. I'm gonna stretch my legs while we're waiting for the food and everything. Sure thing, bud. With a tiny smile, he nodded at his dad, but the lightness to his expression faded when he moved to face you. Wanna come? He was attempting to be subtle, but there was very obviously something on his mind. Something he wanted to talk to you about alone. You watched him with concern as you rose from your seat. It's in a different city, isn't it? Yeah, I'll go. Take care. With those parting words, the two of you walked about the place. He was trying to get as far away from everyone else as possible without actually exiting the building. What did you need to say? He hadn't admitted that was... One more try. He hadn't admitted that was what this was about, but he didn't need to. Cove started pulling on the hem of his shirt. He turned his head back to face you, but it was an awkward movement. Well, I wanted to talk to you one-on-one about all this. You know, my work, moving. I mean, it was coming before, but now it's pretty much here. Yeah, it's exciting. Cove stopped picking at his shirt, and he seemed to respond well to that response. He was relieved you weren't upset about it. I'm glad you think so. But then he looked down, and his brows furrowed. You saw his hand shift away from his clothes to instead rub out his arm. Are you looking forward to it? I am. Well, I'm trying to be. He ducked his head further down, and you saw his face start to redden. But it's scary. I don't want things to end. Is he gonna ask us to date? You're going to do great things. You're so nice to me. Cove then turned his head away and wrapped his arms around himself. You felt a sudden chill that definitely wasn't caused by the air conditioner. I was just thinking, are we really gonna stay friends? His words came out hesitantly. He didn't want to ask this. He didn't want to know. I'm not just talking about today, but forever. Always. Even if things change later. Right now, do you feel we can make it? Insert uncontrollable sobbing. Yeah, this is so sad. Or do you think we can't last? That one day we'll have to move on? You kept calm. You understood his concern. It was definitely hard to imagine what would happen. However, you didn't let yourself get upset. I want it to be forever. You thought about the future and how unsure it was. You couldn't know what was to come. However, there was one thing that you did know, and that was how much you cared about him. Cove laughed with a delicate smile on his face. Okay, you win. I wanted to prepare myself for the horrifying unknown, but you're kind of giving me no choice but to be optimistic here. His eyes sparkled with mischief. Strong armor. You're welcome. Cove rolled his eyes and tried not to smile. Thanks for listening to me, Gemstone. It helped. You felt pleased that his anxiety had eased after talking it out. Cove watched you with affection written plainly across his face. Gemstone, you're just so... So? Well... His eyes darted to the table full of your families. He was getting uneasy again. But he seemed determined when his gaze came back to you. Could we talk again? Even further away? Like outside? You were intrigued and nodded at his words. Oh, here it comes. We can go. Thanks. It's important to me. With that, you left the restaurant and went out onto the sidewalk. A couple cars drove by on the main street, and the breeze hit your face. No way, I'm moving my hands like a high school girl right now. OMG, OMG, OMG. Yes, girl, go get him. I see exactly that in my mind. Cove prepared himself to speak his mind. Whatever else he wanted to say after that was trapped in his throat. You watched patiently as his mouth slowly closed moments after nothing else followed. Cove took a deep breath, and then another. His gaze clung onto you, laser-focused. There's something I've wanted to tell you about. About something that I've realized. His voice shook, and there was no mistaking the fear in his blue eyes. Goosebumps broke out across your skin, and you subconsciously started wiping your sweaty palms on the side of your hip. But I haven't said it. I'm just not very good at talking about this. Your chest was sore from how hard your heart was beating, but it continued to drum faster and faster. The world around you seemed to slow, as you realized Cove was waiting for you to say something. It's okay. You can tell me. Please, I'd like to know. Despite your stomach twisting itself into a pretzel from nerves, you needed to know what Cove was struggling to tell you, and what about it was so important. The look in his eyes softened, and the corner of his mouth pulled into a small smile. Cove's expression hardened, his hands balled up into fists. Gemstone. He said your name boldly, but then his confidence faltered as he stared deeper into your eyes. Only a squeak came out next. I'm trying so hard to read this well. He's so cute. This is such an important moment. Gemstone, He frowned wobbly, and his face became dark red. It was plain on his face that his nerves were spiraling. Then Cove froze completely. You waited for him to compose himself. Instead, he crumpled forward, burying his face in his hands. He can't do it. Not yet, you realized, feeling disappointed. I'm sorry. Cove continued to hang his head in defeat, and you knew it would take at least one more chance for him. He started on his way, but it was always a struggle for Cove to fully take that next step. Oh, he's so sweet. I understand. You tried not to give away the disappointment in your voice. Cove didn't react at all. Seriously, it's okay. Awkwardly, you glanced back at the restaurant for a moment, finally remembering what had originally brought you to this place. We should probably go back inside, right? We've been out here a while. Cove continued to hide his face, and you just barely caught his meek nod. That was better than nothing. You started making your way over to the restaurant door. He's doing it. Within moments, you realized that you could only hear the sound of your own steps on the pavement. You stopped and turned, seeing Cove standing in the same spot and position. Cove? Slowly, he lifted his head out of his hands. From a distance, you couldn't quite make out his expression. No, I can't. I'm not doing this. Finally, he moved. He approached you at a brisk pace, stumbling a bit, and when he got close enough, Cove dropped his hands on your shoulders. The determination had returned to his features, and he leaned his head down to look you in the eye. I'm always like this. I panic and I quit partway through. His voice shook a bit at the beginning, but as he lowered it to a hushed tone, it evened out. A shiver shot down your spine as you watched tears well up in his eyes. Oh, I'm so scared of things changing and new stuff happening and just everything you have to deal with living a life. His voice cracked as he continued, though it didn't halt. But the worst of it is thinking about the future and not knowing if you'll be there. Not laughing, imagining those as squeaking noises.
And I don't want to be afraid to say that. I don't want to be scared of anything that has to do with us. Not when it comes to you. You're the one who makes me less afraid. When something is horrible, you can make it better. When I feel alone, you're what lets me know I'm not. Sometimes I can't even remember what my life was before I moved here, and before you were in it. I was so little, and it was such a long time ago, and it was so hard then. But I do remember those days, when we were just kids running around the neighborhood. It was like my life had started over. It was a new beginning, and nothing feels more right than you being there. Not just back then, but always.
As much as he tried willing and blinking the tears away, they won. Big tears bubbled and burst from his eyes, and they ran down his cheeks.
Gemstone, I want to be with you.
I'm sorry. I want to be with you too. The words came completely naturally. Your mouth pulled into a beaming smile that made you feel like it had a high chance of being permanent. Gem, no, I will die. Wait. Yeah. So happy. Death, heart, happiness. It go boom. Oh no, Potato, take a deep breath. You'll be okay. There were probably a million moments or more over the years where you looked at him and thought about saying it, but there was nothing stopping you anymore. Who needs air? My lungs are filled with joy. You loved him, and you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Cove actually felt the same way about you. Cove's eyes widened, his breath hitched. You could feel his hands on your shoulders begin to tremble. The way his expression twisted, you knew that he was struggling to put his thoughts in order. You wondered if he even believed the last few minutes actually happened.
Is this really all right?
And that was all he could muster in the tiniest whisper. But you knew the weight of those words. You had a long history, and this would change things. Your head tilted towards him as you stared at him fondly, feeling your skin burn hot and your heart beat a mile a minute in your chest. Of course it is. Cove let out a long, shaky breath. He still seemed to have difficulty believing he had spoken those words, and that you had returned the feelings. Kiss, smooch his face. Don't be sorry, heck yeah. My brain's doing the exact same thing. Oh!
Gemstone, if you want me, can I be your boyfriend? I'd like that a lot. I can't think of anything I'd like more.
His lips quirked into a hopeful smile, eyes still glistening. You can, because I want to be your girlfriend. You hugged him. You closed the distance between you and him and wrapped Cove in a full embrace. You squeezed tight and rested your head near his heart. You could hear his pulse speed up as he held you. He nuzzled his face against yours, and you felt warm. His eyes prickled with new tears, and he sniffled, but you could recognize equal joy taking over him. You both were happy, together. You were together and happy. You teared up as well. You blinked rapidly as tears welled up. You just couldn't stop them. Your joy refused to be contained. Then Cove reached up to caress your cheek delicately. He took a moment to simply cherish you. A peaceful smile grew on his face as his eyes sparkled.
Can I kiss you?
Your jaw dropped. No matter what else had just happened, that was not a desire you expected Cove Holden to be capable of vocalizing. You were completely floored. Seeing your reaction made him realize exactly what he had done. He had seriously asked to kiss you. An intense blush covered every inch of his cheeks in absolute embarrassment, but he didn't take it back. You nodded shyly. Cove looked bashful but resolute, and brought his face to yours. Within seconds, you were close enough to feel his breath on your face. Your noses brushed together when he paused, giving you another chance to change your mind. You looked at him expectantly, completely sure of this. Not wanting to deny either of you what you both clearly wanted, he stopped hesitating. Cove kissed you. You returned it without delay. The feeling was blissful and longing. He was absolutely still nervous. You could tell from his shaking hands as he cupped the back of your head. However, he wasn't going to let that stop him. Shyness was secondary to being able to kiss you for as long as he could. There was no denying he'd been hoping for this moment ages before it ever happened. You knew this was right. Cove blinked rapidly when you parted, newly stunned, but it was only with amazement. What happened was shocking and unexpected, but he absolutely wanted to hold on to this new thing between you. He ducked his head with a childish giddiness and peeked at you out of the corner of his eyes.
Thanks for giving me a chance to finally get it together and say this. For you, I would have waited forever. Gemstone. Oh, we're gonna have to tell everybody about this when we go back, aren't we? I don't think they'll be surprised.
He smiled at you with an unabashed preciousness. You figured that even without your history, if anyone caught Cove looking at you like that, it'd be obvious exactly how he felt. His openness of character had some truly delightful benefits. You must have been making an expression equally as affectionate, because he began to fluster again. He made some stuttering chuckles and then quieted down, his mouth forcefully staying closed. You both took in a moment to process. After 10 years of being together, you were officially a couple now. After all that, you finally made it back inside the restaurant. Cove was clearly nervous. Now that you were together, your family were going to have to hear about it. Your families. Multiple, not one yet, but soon. Your families were going to have to hear about it. But with you by his side, he continued forward. You could feel eyes on you as you took your place at the table. They didn't wait long to start asking if you were all right and what had happened. It didn't help that Cove's face flushed immediately over the attention. Out of the corner of your eye, you glanced at Cove, and your face betrayed you. It burned red hot with excitement. He was your boyfriend, and that only made your family want to pry more. Cove steeled his nerves and faced the small crowd.
Well, the truth is, Gemstone and I are...
Grins were already beginning to appear around the table before he could muster the full explanation. He swallowed hard, stealing a glance at you.
A couple now. We're dating. Though we haven't gone on a date yet, exactly. It's just... I'm her boyfriend. So, yeah.
Cove stopped his rambling there with wide eyes. He waited tensely for a response. Mr. Holden was the first to react, instantly slapping a hand over Cove's shoulder. His other hand smacked against his own chest over his heart.
You did it. That's amazing, Cove. Gemstone, if you need anything, I'm here. Don't hesitate to come to me for help. Don't hesitate to come to me for help.
Aw, Dad.
What help? Son, I'm so happy for you and Gemstone. Of course, just take care of yourselves. This is either heading towards the breakup of a lifetime or a wedding, and I will be there for either.
Aw, dude, come on! Don't say that yet. It just happened. Oh, man. He's so good at social, and good speak and kind goodness. Oh my gosh, Dad! Cove covered the side of his head that was facing Mr. Holden with a hand and sunk lower in his chair, in some desperate attempt to put distance between himself and his father's words. I forget where it happens, but there's a branch where Cove explains how badly he was agonizing over staying in the friend zone for so long, terrified that his inability to voice his feelings when he knew it was mutual was actively ruining everything, and he had no idea how to bring the topic up. Oh no, poor baby Cove. Aww. Meanwhile, the women in your family all burst into laughter. Pull back on those reins a little there, Cliff. They are not ones to rush. It took them a decade to reach boyfriend and girlfriend status. Mom! I don't think we need to start looking at venues yet. Exactly. This is wonderful news, and all we need to do is congratulate them on it. Gemstone, Cove, I'm so glad for you both. I know you'll be happy together. Ma! We're rooting for you. Yeah, we are. This is so exciting. I knew you were meant for each other. Well, I called this one. I called it years ago. I should have made a real bet with someone. Though, I don't think anyone would have been dense enough to bet against it. Cove let himself fall forward, sticking himself to the table's surface. There was no getting away from this. You couldn't believe how embarrassing this was. You wanted to run out of the building with the way they were acting, but getting to be with Cove was worth the strife. Once the wave of family teasing and cooing passed, you were able to feel grateful for both families' encouragement. It made you happy, knowing just how loved you were. Night fell soon after everyone finished their meals, and before you knew it, you were standing in the parking lot, saying your goodbyes, and packing up the cars to go home. After the last of the chores were done, your family spent some more time together. The rest of the night felt like it was going by in the blink of an eye, and somehow the time came to retire to your room to sleep. Cove at the window. You pulled your covers up under your chin and settled down for the night, getting warm and cozy. As your head sank into your pillow and you closed your eyes, your mind drifted back to everything that had happened that day. You could see it all now, behind your eyelids, as though you were experiencing it all over again. Oh! And then the image of Cove popped into your head, and you smiled softly to yourself. Oh! Not that one. These are kind of intense for just the first, like, he finally worked up the courage. We don't want to, like, you know, like our parents said, we take things slow, so you decided to send him a text to chat. Taking your phone from your bedside table, you lay on your back and held it above your face, typing out a message to Cove. Are you awake? He didn't reply, and you let out a defeated sigh as you locked your phone screen and let your arms fall back down. He must have fallen asleep. Suddenly, your phone buzzed in your hand, and you scrambled to check the message that had just come through. It was Cove. Yeah, what's going on? Nothing much. I'm trying to sleep. I'm texting you that. Oh, right, I get to pick. Smiley face. I'm texting you, that's what. What are you doing? You watched the little dots on your screen as he typed, before his next message popped up on your screen. I'm just heading to bed. Good night. Oh, we have another chance. Oh, what do you think, guys? Well, I know what Potato wants to do. I mean, it's just a hangout, right? We're not gonna do anything, right? Right? You know. You know what I want, you know. You don't need me to say it. Do you stare into my eyes? You understand? What I yearn for, I need it. I want it. I feel like this is an addiction at this point. I feel like I shouldn't encourage this. I will kill, not really legally saying, for it. Don't you take this away from me, you rock. Uh-oh. Are you challenging me? Good night. Yes, you're challenging me. And you know I'll win. What if we just keep texting? What do you think about that? Think we should just keep texting? Maybe. I mean, it's been a long day. Smite me with all the hate and spite. And feelings of envy and wrong committed to me that you will bring. Well, now I really don't want to. Now you've challenged me. What type of person would I be if I just gave in to this? The sun, it burns not with even one millionth of the rage I have. Quick, BRB, gotta do laundry, but don't you dare. You can't stop me if you're not here. Second opinion, anyone? I genuinely don't know what to pick. This one feels... Okay, not good night, that's lame. This one feels safe. This one feels fun. But I've also been challenged to pick this one, so now I don't want to. 'Cause I'm stubborn. We could just find out what happens and then rewind if we don't like it. No wrong answers, do what you feel is right. Thanks. Temporary, we're testing it to see what happens. Do you want to come over? You chewed on the end of your finger as you watched the screen, waiting for any sign that he was typing back. We're gonna hear a knock at our window. He had been getting ready for bed, so maybe he wouldn't want to come over at all. And if you were being fair, it was a pretty odd time to have a meetup. But even so, you hoped he would. Jem, I ran up 2 flights of stairs. What did you pick? On my own accord, and on the behest of nobody else, I asked him to come over. Your heart leapt as your phone finally buzzed again, and you stared at his answer on your screen. So you did what I wanted. Okay. Let me fix that. You did what we wanted. Heck yeah. A breath of laughter escaped as you messaged him back. He hadn't even asked why. You sent him a quick thanks back and put your phone away before sitting up in bed, leaning back against your pillows and waiting for him to come over. We're just gonna stay in bed, huh? We're not gonna meet him by the window or anything. The stillness of the night became very obvious to you, and you started to hear the soft noises your house made when you were all asleep much more clearly. Classic Jem being lazy. Hey! Making Cove do all the work. No! Every second seemed to drag on and on. You just wanted Cove to be here already. Finally, you heard those familiar sounds coming from outside. A sort of scratching and then shuffling. Next came a tap on the window. You hopped out of your seat with almost too much energy and rushed to let Cove in. When you arrived, you could see Cove was smiling in at you from the other side in the dark. You slid the window up and stepped back, giving him space to climb through and get down from the ledge. I call bull! These windows clearly open hinge style, not up. He was in an amusing mismatch of pajamas and sneakers, and Cove chuckled when he saw you looking down at his ensemble. Do you want the handsome boy or not? I want accuracy! Once safely inside, he straightened up and dusted himself off, before looking at you expectantly. What can I do for you? Anyway. Oh, that's a little kiss. Kiss. No, we just started dating. We asked him to come over. We're not, that's dangerous territory. You hugged him. You know you want it, you know he wants it, you know I want it, you know we want it. Stop. Ah, shucks. Leaning forward, you wrapped your arms around Cove, feeling him freeze for a brief moment.
When he re- when he re- when- Then he relaxed and hugged you back softly. Oh. When he relaxed and hugged you back softly, you let out a small sigh. It doesn't really matter why. It's okay. You held him for a little while longer, letting his hug relax you, until you pulled back and looked at him gently. The bed sank under Cove's weight as he sat down, his eyes firmly fixed on the ground. His hands shook where he held them in his lap. He was nervous. I'll stay as long as you want me to. Really? Yeah, really. How long do you want to stay? Well, to be honest, there aren't a lot of situations where leaving you is ever what I want to do. I guess only when I annoy you and you need space? You chuckled softly, doubting that would happen anytime soon. Okay, you don't have to go anywhere. His face lit up as he settled in even more. It won't have been the first time I've slept in your room. You snickered, feeling pleased with your decision to do this. Okay, but there's no way I'm letting you take the floor this time. Here we go again. You rolled your eyes and let out a soft laugh, which Cove returned as you rubbed at the back of his neck. I appreciate you taking the floor when I texted you to come over. We are officially a couple now. No, seriously, you can have the bed. No, we could just share the bed. Ah! I mean, yeah, I guess we could do that. Nothing is stopping us. Holding back your amusement, you tried not to grin at his bashfulness. He obviously hadn't thought it through completely, but at least he was up for it. Smoochy smoochy under the bedsheets, nothing more. Wait, we're gonna share the bed. You could hear the tremble in Cove's voice as he held his hands together to keep them from shaking. We don't have to if you're too nervous. I don't wanna push him to be uncomfortable. Actually, maybe not. Your eyebrows rose at how quickly he changed his mind. But when you saw he was serious, you let out a sigh. I'm sorry. I'll do it. I can do it. I want to do it. I just need a second. You felt nervous about it yourself, but you tried to put on a brave face for Cove's sake. It only took a couple of moments longer before he turned to you, attempting a weak smile. Ready? Yeah, let's get in there. That's a weird way to say it. Let's get in there. Anyway, he took another deep breath, and you slipped under the covers, making room for him to get in after you. Laying as straight as a steel rod, Cove tensed up beside you, so still he was barely breathing at all. He's so comfortable and not awkward. You rested on your side and faced him, your eyebrows pinched in the middle as you watched him. He looked back at you deeply. Gemstone. Aww. Poor boy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. All of a sudden, he started trembling and shaking more than ever, and then he scrambled out of the bed. You bolted upright, leaning back on your hands as you stared at him in shock. Are you all right? Yeah, I'll be back. I just need some more time. He ran a hand through his hair in exasperation and paced around the room, breathing heavily. Oh, I'm so sorry, Cove. You were worried for him, but completely at a loss for what to do. As though he could read your mind, he spoke again. It's fine. Don't worry. He assured you between heavy, gasping breaths, but you were having trouble believing him. When he bent over with his hands on his knees, like he had just run a marathon, you were even more concerned. This isn't a problem. Just a process. He held up a hand to reassure you, and with nothing left to do, you sank back down into the bed,
and let him have the space he obviously needed.
Okay, take all the time you need.
That's not the right tone.
Okay, take all the time you need.
And it did take some time for him to even finish working out his nervous energy, and steady his breathing to an even rhythm, but eventually he collected himself enough to relax. You tentatively glanced over at him, watching as he let out one last deep sigh before turning back to you.
Can I come back still?
Of course. You smiled reassuringly and shuffled over to make space for him. He immediately perked up as he slipped back into bed beside you, though was still careful not to get too close.
Thank you for waiting, again, as always.
He laughed shyly, his soft eyes meeting yours through the dim light.
Are you okay?
I am now that you are. He let out a deep breath, relief written on his face.
Yeah, I am.
Oh. He shuffled closer, an inch at a time, and nuzzled his chin against the top of your head, wrapping his arms around your sides. We don't want to push too far. He's already doing so good, so brave, such a brave boy, so we'll stay like that. You let him hold you. The safety and warmth of his arms enveloped you, and you exhaled a contented sigh of your own. The room grew quiet around you. The only sounds to be heard were the faraway crash of the ocean waves, and your breath mingling in the small space between you. He's always willing to put in the work for you. Yeah, he's such a sweet boy. Cove's heart was pounding, the thump of it rumbling through you as he spoke again softly.
You know, I'm not scared of you, right? It's just so many other things that scare me. I'm afraid of what-if hypotheticals that aren't actually real, but I think about anyway. And of nebulous concepts of what things mean that I can barely explain even to myself. I'm scared of my own feelings and how much I feel them. And I'm afraid because tomorrow things will be different between us, but I'll be alone again.
Oh. He held on to you tighter, his breath stuttering ever so slightly.
It's normal right now to see you during the day and part ways at night. Except for special exceptions.
A little laugh escaped him before his tone became serious once more.
It's easier to stay where I am than it is to make myself move, to not take a risk, and to not know what I might be missing, but...
He hesitated, and you reached up to brush a few strands of hair from his face gently, his eyes slowly fixing on yours.
When did doing the easy thing get so hard? When it comes to you, I don't know how to stay still. I want to keep taking steps forward. Honestly, when I see your face or even imagine it, I want to start sprinting. But when I try, I hit a wall. It's just like I physically can't do it on one side of my mind. There's something blocking me. And then on the other side, I absolutely can't stop myself from doing it. It never ends well. I hate it. It's the most frustrating thing. Why do I do it every time? I'm annoyed with the way that I am, so I have no idea how you stand it. I'm sorry I act so split when it comes to, the romantic things. I do not want you to think you're rushing me when I know I'm giving mixed signals.
Oh, thank you for saying that out loud.
And I don't want to miss out on being happy by being like this, but sometimes I still can't help it. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm glad you've never given up on me. It means a lot. It means everything to me.
You don't give up on me either. His eyes glossed over a little as he squeezed you closer to him and smiled, his heart rate finally relaxing to a normal rhythm.
Good night, Gemstone.
Good night. So cute. He leaned forward and kissed you tenderly, his hand gently moving to cradle the back of your head.
I love you.
What?
Your heart skipped a beat as Cove stared at you, his confused expression a perfect mirror of your own. And then, as if the gears had slowly turned and clicked into place in his head, his eyes widened. Oh! His mouth opened wide as he sucked in a huge breath, barely even moving a muscle. Girl, come on. You love me? He said nothing, continuing to inhale as though he could suck them back in, completely horrified with having blurted out those words. Real, like girl, headshake. Yeah. Then he slowly covered his mouth with his hands, holding the air in. You waited for him to say something. Anything. But he only stared at you with a trembling gaze. He shut his eyes tight and mumbled something, but you couldn't hear it with his mouth covered. It's okay, Cove. His eyes burst open once more in a panic. He finally pulled his hands away from his mouth. Is it? We've been dating for less than a day. Those feelings were held deeply in him, and to have let them get through when he hadn't meant to was immensely distressing. We've been dating for less than a day, but we've known each other for 10 years. You knew Cove, and you were positive he was worried that it was going to ruin things between the two of you. But he didn't need to be. Yes, it is. You gave him a soft smile, and nodded at him in encouragement. He looked at you profoundly before speaking in a small voice. I'm in love with you. That's not too much? You locked eyes with him, feeling as though you could almost burst with happiness. In your heart, you knew exactly what you wanted to say. I love you too. Your confession was out in the open, hanging in the air between you, and you smiled at him. A relieved sob escaped Cove, who tucked his head down and clutched the front of your shirt. Oh! You held him close to you as he spoke between gasping breaths. Thank God. Thank you. I love you, Cove. You're the only one for me. You cried with him. Unable to stop your own tears, you let them fall freely down your face as you felt all the emotion of the moment. Cove's eyes widened on you, brimming with fresh tears as his expression turned serious. I felt like I'd never be able to make myself say it. He laughed, and the tears fell even stronger as he shook from it. I can't believe I did it by accident. He covered his eyes with one hand. If you hadn't felt the same way, I don't know. I can't bring myself to imagine it. And I don't have to because you do. You do love me. He whispered the words to himself softly, as if he hardly dared to believe them at all. Then he closed his eyes, his hands still shaking as they moved to take yours. I'm sorry. I really am always like this. You leaned in to kiss him. As their lips met, he kissed you desperately, as though all he wanted was to hold on to the moment, to you. When he kissed you deeper, your hands slid behind his neck, feeling the tiny goosebumps spreading across his skin. Gemstone. Uh-oh. 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 You couldn't help thinking about crying, Ari. How you were certain you wanted to spend your life with him. You didn't need to pretend it wasn't true, not to yourself. You dreamed of waking up every day to him. You wanted Cove to be your partner through all that you'd experience in this world. And someday, you wanted everyone to know just how much you loved him. For now, though, you were content to keep that only in your thoughts. Curling himself up, he nestled in close to you, letting you wrap your arms around him and hold him tight. You were still smiling as you snuggled into him, getting as close as you could. Cocooned in his warmth, you easily grew comfortable next to him, feeling him ease into you as well. Before long, your eyes were growing heavy, and you drifted off in a restful sleep, side by side. So cute! These babies are so cute! I'm dying! The next morning, you woke slowly from a comfortable dream. With a small stretch, you opened your eyes fully to the sun shining in through the window. Shuffling onto your side, you noticed Cove still beside you in the bed, sleeping soundly. His arms continued to be draped around you loosely as he snoozed. You must have fallen asleep that way. You smiled, remembering the prior night. It had been nice to spend the night together, getting to be with him in a whole different way. You could definitely get used to it. He sleep. You quietly watched him sleep. He looked so peaceful and happy, you couldn't bear to wake him. With your elbow bent and your head propped up on your hand, your gaze rested over him for a while longer. His eyes fluttered open softly, before widening in surprise at the sight of you. As his memories caught up with him, he gave you a bashful smile. Morning. Good morning. You snuggled against him and smiled softly, making the most of your time together while he nuzzled your hair with his cheek. His breath rested on your skin as he sighed happily, and you tightened your arms around him. Cove. When you tilted your head to meet his eyes, he grinned at you and gently brushed the tip of his nose against yours. I guess we should get up. He sounded reluctant, and if you were being honest with yourself, you were too. It would have been nice to have more time together, just relaxing and hanging out. You nodded quietly. You both pulled yourselves up and started shuffling around the room. This is just the first of many, many days to come where we wake up looking into each other's eyes. Cove stretched his long limbs out and yawned, before ruffling his fingers through his green hair. You watched him fondly until your eyes met, and he looked away quickly, hiding a blush. So, that was fun. I can't believe I slept here the whole night. Yeah, me either. I'm glad you did, though. Me too. Cove slipped his glasses back on as he spoke those words. With a last shared smile, the two of you headed out of your room and down the stairs, laughing and chatting casually about your plans for the day. Straight out. It was like he had lived there the whole time, or as if waking up together were as regular an occurrence as anything. Cove snuck his hand into yours, giving it a soft squeeze, and making you feel all warm. As you hit the foot of the stairs, you froze, finding 4 different pairs of eyes staring over at the two of you in various states of amusement and shock. Your family was already up. It took a moment for anyone to speak, but soon enough a chorus of greetings drifted over. You scanned the place to find your moms, Liz, and Lee all together around the kitchen and living room. Hi. Good morning. I got here, earlier. Oh yeah, I bet you did. Liz snorted with undisguised laughter, making Lee giggle along with her. I've been out here for quite a while and never saw you come through. BRB gonna eat, but this was wonderful. Indeed. Thank you for joining. I'm so glad you had fun. Well, a blush spread across Cove's cheeks, the pink tinge settling on the tip of his nose. You're also still in your pajamas. You don't usually walk around town during the day in those, do you? Mom let out a little laughter of her own, and you gave her a look, to which she responded by clamping her mouth shut. Cove looked down at his outfit and his shoulders slumped in defeat, as he hung his head to hide his very red face. You know, I always guessed that you had been sneaking in, Cove, but could never quite prove it. Mom nodded in agreement, nudging Ma's shoulder playfully as she headed over to stand beside her. That's something I wouldn't have bet against. Liz tutted at the two of them and shook her head. You've definitely gotten too comfortable with their sneaky rivalry. You still did good. You never got caught before you turned 18. Oh my gosh. Bruh. Lee smiled from where she sat at the kitchen table, waving a dismissive hand in the air. Also, she's so pretty. Surely you can't be punished too hard for it now. I'm not sure about that. Gemstone still lives at home, and I very much doubt that this is the first time she's let Cove in like this. Ma crossed her arms over her chest, giving both you and Cove a serious look. We may have to have retroactive punishments for all that. I'm sorry. It's not Gemstone's fault. It was my fault, not Cove's. I'm the one who asked him to come over. I practically didn't even give him a choice. That's not true. At that moment, your moms both burst out laughing, receiving amused looks from Liz and Lee, while you and Cove simply stood there dumbstruck. We're merciful, don't worry. It's true. You did indeed get away with it, and we're not going to make this little bit of a summer you have left miserable over bedtime rule breaking now. Besides, you're in good company. We're almost certain Lizzie spent many nights sneaking the old home phone into her room and staying up till dawn. At least you were in your own rooms. Excuse me, that's conjecture. They exchanged smiles, before Ma turned to you again with a firmer expression. They were in their rooms, but I do worry about you coming in that way, Cove. It's dangerous. Especially because he's likely quite distracted and excited by thoughts of reuniting with Gemstone while climbing around in the dark. Mom joked, and they all burst out laughing once more, keeping Cove fully embarrassed. Cove leaned closer to you and whispered quietly, a look of guilt settling over his features. I'm sorry, Gemstone. Don't worry about it. I'm laughing with them. Yeah, this is so cute. A knock. Oh. And here comes Mr. Holden. A knock at the front door caught your attention, and you followed several steps behind Mom as she went to answer it. Mr. Holden and Kyra were standing together. Morning. Hi there. Surprised at that sight, Mom paused a moment. Then she pulled Kyra into a hug. Meanwhile, Cove went through a process. Shock and excitement over her arrival rolled right into the awkward realization that he had missed her showing up at his house by being at yours. This game has controlled me, help. It's been too long. I know, time's been flying. Kyra's gaze slid over to you, and then to Cove. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and her mouth curled into a smirk. And it's so good to see my son, finally. Hello to you, Gemstone. Continuing his ride of emotions, Cove's face slowly reddened. He couldn't quite meet anyone's eyes, so he kept looking at his own feet. Buddy. Sorry, Mom. Hi. Smiling nervously, he raised a hand to offer her a small wave. Kyra chuckled, thoroughly amused by your reaction. We're all letting them assume, like, more than actually happened. We just cuddled, right? Like, I know what they're all thinking. It's okay. Kyra gave his back a few reassuring pats, but Ko's face seemed to get even redder. She grinned. My not-so-little mister is spreading his wings. I can't complain about that. Mom immediately brought a hand to her face to hide her mouth, but a giggle still escaped. People looked at her confused, and then she laughed again, louder. 'Cause he has wings on his shirt? It's just a really fitting phrase considering Cove's current attire. She pointed at the feathery, wing-like decal around the collar of Cove's pajama shirt. Oh! Everyone turned their attention to Cove. He even looked down at his own clothes over the realization. That's so true! I didn't even notice! All the parents burst into continued laughter. Cove was clearly not as amused. You flashed him a smile and he visibly perked up. Oh, it's really nice to be back. Enough of standing around out here. Come on in. Mom moved aside to usher the group in and guided them to the living room. Before anyone could get settled in, Mom spoke up. You're all welcome to stay for breakfast. We still have some great spices and stuff from the farmer's market. Yes, we'd be thrilled to host you. There were eager nods from Mr. Holden and Kyra, but Cove looked around the room filled with familiar faces before speaking up. Maybe, instead of staying here, why don't we go to the beach? A scenic picnic, eh? Mr. Holden crossed his arms and contemplated that idea, happily. Excited, Kyra clapped her hands together. Oh, we can really make a day out of it. Might as well enjoy the ocean while we can. That sounds lovely, Cove. Everyone else put in their own agreement with Cove's suggestion. Before long, both families dispersed, getting everything ready. Sandwiches had to be made, water, sunscreen, towels, and more needed to be gathered and packed. Plus, you and Cove both took some time to get dressed for the day. You also decided to bring the bottle of lemon lime soda Cove got you. Today felt sufficiently special to bust it out. An hour later, both your family and Cove's were walking down the old path to the beach. We are saving the bottle from this lemon lime soda. Just so you know. The morning was already turning into a bright and beautiful day. You honestly couldn't ask for better weather for a beach trip. The moment you laid your eyes on the full view of the ocean, you stopped and stood there mesmerized. It didn't matter that you grew up there. The sight always filled you with wonder. Hey, Gemstone? I was thinking about calling Terry and Miranda, see if they can come too. Everyone else is pretty much already here, so would your family mind? That'd be cool. I'll ask them. You were already so excited at the prospect of seeing your friends today that you immediately darted away in the direction your moms went. Behind you, you could hear the familiar sound of Cove laughing. I have a question. Would it be alright if Terry and Miranda came by? I don't see why not. Ma looked to Mom to see what she thought, and she nodded in agreement. Mom then shot a glance over at Mr. Holden and Kyra, knowing that they had likely heard everything. Cliff, Kyra, what do you two think? The more the merrier. Of course, they're welcome with me. Thanks. So many voices. Oh no, there's gonna be even more. Delighted, you nodded and turned on your heels. Cove was still several feet away talking to Lee and Liz, likely about the same topic. With a beaming smile, you gave him a thumbs up, and the two of them must have also approved, as Cove quickly got his phone out and started making the calls. Gem, you know your voices are great, and thank you for putting in so much effort. Thank you. I'm glad you liked them. I'm never sure if they're like too much or too little, and I know they fluctuate sometimes, but I'm glad you liked them. I find it fun. Good practice for voice acting if I ever want to do that too. At that, you turned your attention to helping with the picnic setup. You hurried over to your mom's and helped put the rest of the food out. In moments, you noticed Cove at your side. So, what did they say? They're gonna come. Cool, thanks for calling them. No problem. I'm glad I thought of it. They'll meet us here later today. Shouldn't be too long. I can't wait. Once the setup was done, everyone got comfortable and dug into the food. You couldn't remember the last time breakfast tasted this good, but you attributed it to the gorgeous ocean view and the soothing sea breeze. The conversation shifted to what you all would do next. We could do a few rounds of volleyball. There's plenty of us now. Could I play? Of course. Miranda brightened, delighted with this plan. Ma looked around to see if there were any other takers. I don't really feel like playing. I'd have to change, but it'd be fun to watch. I could be the ref. My eyes won't miss a thing. Volleyball's a good idea, but there should probably be something happening for those who aren't a fan. Ooh, I have some crafting supplies that we could use to make jewelry. We could even use stuff we find around the beach to accentuate them. What, really? I want to make a necklace. I'd be interested in trying my hand at that too. Oh, what does Cove want to do? I want to play volleyball. I'll play volleyball. You looked at Ma, ready to jump into a competitive mode. She looked thrilled to have you on board. I'm game to play some volleyball. Yay! Now that plans were settled, the group temporarily split into two. Alright, sports stars, you're gonna have to pick partners and then it's game on. Mr. Holden left the rest of you to deliberate and turned his attention to drawing a makeshift court in the sand. Well? She walked over to you and hooked her arm around yours. You laughed. I want to be on Gemstone's team. You paired up with Ma. Alright, it'll be Ma and me. Alright, it'll be Ma and me. We're gonna be with Cove for the rest of our lives. We're gonna be leaving Ma soon. You wanted to have fun with your Ma. Cove put on his game face, not intending to go easy on you now that you're on opposite sides. See, it's fun. Cove then turned to Miranda. He looked determined. Ready to win? Yeah! When Mr. Holden finished drawing the court, he went and fetched the volleyball from the various other supplies you all brought there. Sounds like we have our teams all set, right? Yes. Good, good. Now get to your sides. The four of you situated yourselves on one side or the other of the court with your partner. Mr. Holden tossed the ball to Ma. Since this was all Noelani's idea, I think it's fair she gets to serve first. Thank you, Cliff. Woo, Ma! Show him who's boss. Go, Gemstone. Make him eat sand. You kicked a small heap of sand out of your way on the simple court, making her laugh. You turned back towards Ma. Good luck, Ma. Good luck to you, too, but I don't think we're gonna need it. Ma flashed you a playful grin and punched a fist into the palm of her other hand. You were very amused at her show of confidence. With that, Ma got into position and delivered a practiced first serve. The game began. In the battle over the volleyball, both teams scored points. There wasn't a set amount to reach to end things, so it went back and forth for as long as everyone wanted to play. Okay, now BRB gotta eat. Alrighty. Enjoy your food. And the game went on for quite a while as everyone got into it, especially with the cheers and added commentary. Liz and Mr. Holden made the whole game better with their humor and wit. From a distance, the jewelry-making group would also cheer when they heard shouts coming out of the court. On top of that, they would hold up each newly made piece in the air, and the players would take a breather to applaud the creation. It wasn't until all of you were exhausted from the running, spiking, and diving that a truce was called. You enjoyed every moment of it. The afternoon continued to drift by, but the fun was still going strong. Cove was thrilled when you pulled out the drink you had been saving. It meant a lot to him that you wanted to savor it. It was worth the teasing smiles your family gave. Occasionally, someone would head back to the houses to use the bathroom, rest away from the sun for a while, or retrieve something that they needed, but they always came back. The beach was never empty and there was always a new conversation to take part in, or another game to join. At one point, Mr. Holden even broke out his pack of cards. He roped the whole group into a few rounds of good old Go Fish. Oh, this sounds like such a fun time. There was only one thing that could bring this beach day to an end, and that was for the day itself to end. Before anyone realized it, the sun began to set over the sea. As that happened, you were taking a break, sitting on a towel with your legs stretched out past it and your feet buried in the warm sand. You were reading a book. Oh, that sounds so nice. Shortly, you looked up to see your moms approaching. They stopped in front of you and smiled. Hey there, kiddo. How are you doing? I'm doing really good. What about you? We're wonderful. They both sat down, squishing you between them. Ma leaned her head against yours, and Mom started rubbing your back soothingly. Nothing more was said at first, but Ma sighed contentedly. Mom looked at you wistfully. We were both really proud of you, Gemstone. You grew up to be more than we could ever have hoped. I'm not sure I deserve any of that glowing praise. You were touched they felt that way, but it felt like too much of a compliment out of nowhere. Of course you do. You tried searching your mind for the right words to explain the strange feeling twisting in your chest. Mom lightly brushed some of your hair. Turning your head, you looked from Ma to Mom to Ma. They both smiled encouragingly at you. You did the hard work raising me. Mom chuckled, and Ma wrapped an arm around your middle and squeezed you tightly in a side hug. That's the thing. It was never hard work. I loved every minute of it, and I don't think we'll ever stop. Well said. You're going to have to accept how fantastic you are, whether you want to or not. Thank you. You stayed there quietly and contently, watching the sun set with your parents for a while. Until Mr. Holden called out to you. He was still walking in your direction. We were talking and think we're going to take a walk down by the shore. Any of you want to come? Automatically, you looked to your moms for what they were thinking. Mom glanced from you to Ma and smiled. That sounds good to me. Yes, that'd be very nice. My legs need some stretching. Let's go. Thrilled, Mr. Holden threw out a thumbs up and began heading back the way he came in a light jog. Hey, don't leave us in the dust. Cliff kept going forward but flipped around, walking backwards across the sand so he could face you again. Don't worry, we wouldn't leave without you. All right, we'll catch up. Ready to go? Uh-huh. Both of your moms held out a hand to you. Chuckling, you gave them each one and you all strolled back to the rest of the group. When Liz was in reach, Ma used her free hand to pull her into it too. Liz shook her head, but her mouth quirked into a smile, and she didn't resist. Together as a family, you followed behind the others hand in hand. Your feet squished into the wet sand as the waves rolled over them, and you didn't have a single care in the world as more and more stars began to dot the sky. Once the sun had long been out of sight, it was finally time to pack up. The closing of the day and the ever-approaching end of summer seemed to intertwine. It caused a quiet, reflective mood to blanket over the group. On the beach, Terry and Miranda took turns compressing Cove in a hug before moving on to do the same with you. You chuckled, still overjoyed that you got to see them today. I'm sorry we have to go already. My parents are here. That's okay. But still, I wish we could help clear this all up. Don't worry about it. Just thanks for coming out today. It was cool having everyone here. Oh yeah, I'm super glad we came. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. Nodding, you turned your attention to Terry. She wore a large grin on her face and held out a hand for a low five. You pressed a fist into it, which made her laugh. Take care of yourselves, buddies. After that, they walked away, waving to you and Cove as they went down the shore. Cove waved quietly back with a small smile on his face. Bye, Terry. Bye, Miranda. You waved too. It was a big wave. You hoped Miranda was right, and there would be another day like this soon. Taking you by surprise, Terry jumped and twisted around. She kept up with Miranda by walking backwards. She kept the mood of your farewell light by shooting finger guns at you and Cove. Miranda bumped her with a hip. It left everyone with a laugh just before they disappeared down the bend. Gemstone? Hey, Cove, could you come here? Both of your parents were motioning for you. The two of you went to them. Tons of things ended up at the beach over the course of the day, so there was still so much to pack up, and the parents needed help. With a nod, you got to it, stuffing various things into bags and bundling them up in towels. Once things were ready to go, everyone filled their arms with as much as they could carry. Absolutely no one wanted this to be a back-and-forth kind of task. The walk back home ended up being mostly quiet. Each person seemed to be feeling the effects of the day. A cool breeze carried you across the sand and onto the road. There was a sigh of relief from what felt like the group as a whole when they arrived back to the neighborhood. Mystery Man? Baxter, perhaps? Well, hello, everyone. Yeah. You glanced to the side and spotted a very recognizable face walking down the road. They're giving us a chance to say goodbye to everyone. This is so sad. Oh, hi, Baxter. How are you? Do you need help with that? It's alright. This is our mess to clean up. If you're sure then. I was simply heading home after getting some fresh air. The season is almost over, after all.
Yeah. Baxter was only a tourist. He wouldn't be in town much longer. You knew that, and so did he.
If you have a minute, I'd just like to say it was a pleasure getting to know you both this summer.
His head tilted towards you, and he smiled warmly. Baxter offered you his hand. You used your freer hand to shake his. It was tough with what you were carrying, but soon you were able to extend one of your hands a bit. Baxter chuckled and shook it.
I've really enjoyed meeting you. I'm delighted to hear that. I enjoyed this vacation immensely thanks to you.
Baxter turned to shake Cove's hand this time. He was a little incredulous for a moment, but then Cove eventually shifted what he was carrying and took Baxter's hand. It wasn't long, but it was a solid handshake. Baxter was clearly pleased.
I wish we had more time together, but it was still a nice ride while it lasted. Would happily do it all over again.
Bye, Baxter.
Yeah, bye.
Baxter nodded and walked a few steps toward his condo. He then stopped and waved. Goodbye. Baxter sauntered away completely and disappeared inside the condo to return to his own things. His time with you and your family and friends ending. You paused for a moment, staring at where he went. But afterwards, you looked back over at the rest of the group. Lee and Liz were just going inside your house. Whoop. You couldn't spot Kyra or Mr. Holden anywhere, but the door to their house was wide open. Mom approached you with an amused look on her face.
Seems like you're holding up some Holden things.
Surprised, you glanced down to take a quick inventory of what you were holding. Mom was right, some of it belonged to the neighbors.
Would you mind dropping it off now?
Can do, that's not a problem.
Thank you very much.
Cove took a few steps toward his house and stopped, waiting for you. Good night, Cove. I'll see you inside, Gemstone.
Night.
You caught up to Cove, and together you went over to his house. Walking in the front door, you saw Kyra and Mr. Holden busily unpacking already. Things were scattered on counters, and they were moving around each other, putting the items away. They both lifted their heads when Cove closed the front door.
Hey!
It's nice seeing you again already, Gemstone. Her teasing tone brought a light smile to your face. You hefted the stuff in your arms a little closer. I ended up with things of yours from the beach.
Oh, thanks for getting that to us.
You can put it...
here, on that coffee table.
Mr. Holden pointed at the surface he was referring to, and you immediately left what didn't belong to your family there. Cove put his own things down on the floor just at his feet, wading through everything strewn about to reach his parents. Putting your family's stuff on the ground for a moment, you dusted your hands off and straightened up. You needed a second of rest and a minute to resituate it all. You went over to where the others were, too. Kyra opened her arms wide, waiting to hug you. You accepted. Happily, you went to her. She held on tightly. Over the years, you were able to form a good rapport with her, and you were grateful for that. You could feel in her hug how much Kyra had grown to care about you. It brought an affectionate smile to your face. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast. It's no problem. I had fun too. Kyra eventually released you, but patted the tops of your shoulders as a final gesture. Every time I've gotten to come by, it's been an absolute joy. Things really couldn't have worked out better. Mr. Holden took a step closer to you. Kyra moved aside to let him say goodbye too. He grinned.
Thanks for always being such a friendly neighbor. And not just right now, but for as long as I've known you. I didn't always make it easy, but you and your family are good people. I really, truly appreciate it. Thanks again, Gemstone. So much.
At that, Mr. Holden reached over and gave you a soft pat on the top of your head. I'm really glad that you're my neighbor. Mr. Holden's brows furrowed with emotion. Your words really did touch him.
Me too.
Mr. Holden was staring at you, but his gaze seemed far away. Maybe he was looking back at who you used to be, the 8-year-old he had asked to be his son's new friend.
Bye, Gemstone.
You smiled softly. This is so sad. This is us saying goodbye to the characters. Then Cove took a step forward. He gestured to his pile of things he had carried into the house.
Don't worry about all that. I'll put stuff away in a few minutes.
Right. I need to go do the same with my family.
I figured.
Cove walked you to the door and held it open, taking one last check around to make sure you had all your things to bring home. You went into the road. He leaned his body against the doorframe, not following you out.
So, this is it, huh? Actually, that's not what I mean.
His expression twisted and he shook his head a bit, like he was trying to banish the pensive thoughts.
I'll just say bye.
Bye. I'll see you soon. Your mouth pulled into a soft smile, and you weren't sure who you were trying to reassure more. Cove reached forward and gently cupped your face with one hand. His thumb trailed across your cheek for several heartbeats. Mesmerized by his blue eyes, you stepped forward, delighted to oblige the request he was silently asking. He met you halfway as you smiled into the kiss. It was soft with longing, and your chest ached, knowing that there couldn't be anything more than this, at least for now. One of his hands grabbed onto the door handle and firmly held it. He was stopping himself from coming along with you. As you walked over to your own front door, you stopped. Turning around, you spotted Cove right where you left him. You laughed quietly to yourself. For a small pause, you both stared at each other from across the street. "Good night."
Night.
You shouted across the way to one another. He moved one of his arms in a big wave so you couldn't miss it. Things couldn't be dragged out any longer. After one more shared smile, you opened the door and went inside, shutting it behind you. A few steps in, you saw your family gathered in the living room. They were still busy unpacking and cleaning. You added the things you brought to the pile on the kitchen counter. Mom stood up, rubbing her eyes a bit. She yawned loudly. Every time. It gets me every time. I'm bushed. How about we finish the rest of the chores tomorrow? Yes, honestly, it's too late for this. Despair, yeah. Please and thank you. Ma put her hands on her hips and turned to assess the room. Ma was not one who liked to leave a mess about, but she sighed. I suppose we can make an exception to the usual rule. It has been a very long day. Oh, she's so cute! Liz grinned contentedly. Lee wasted no time in skipping over to you and hooked you into a side hug. Good night. I hope you have the loveliest of dreams of you-know-who. Lee ended that sentence with a wink and a hearty laugh. She let you go. I hope you have good dreams too. Lee smiled until it widened from ear to ear. Lee's smile widened till it went ear to ear. I don't know what my brain did with that sentence. That would be a fantastic way to cap off today and start tomorrow. Here's to us, Gemstone. Tonight, tomorrow, and forever. You nodded quietly. Lee smiled softly. She pulled you into another side hug. Lee stretched her arms high over her head. Dang nabbit! She yawned loudly and looked at you with tired eyes. I think that's my cue to head to bed. Bye. I think so too. Have fun sharing the room with Liz. She laughed at that and Lee shuffled off towards the guest bedroom. Before you had a chance to do anything else, you could feel the top of your head being tapped. You spun around to see Liz smirking. Nighty-night. I'm heading to bed too. It's been a long day, and I have a lot to prepare for tomorrow. Exhaling, you automatically started fixing the back of your hair. When Liz didn't immediately walk away, you smiled softly at her. Everything okay? Her gaze moved away, and you knew she had more to say. You waited patiently for Liz to compose her thoughts. It's been a good summer.
It was nice to come back home. You nodded, and Liz gave you a teasing nudge as she went by. Amused, you turned and watched her go. Love you, baby sister. I love you too. Liz stopped walking and stared at you for a moment. She smiled softly at you. Get some sleep soon. Morning will be here faster than you know it. I will. When Liz was out of sight, Mom started up the next conversation over her shoulder. Aren't you heading up to bed too? I want to finish getting everything cleaned up. Are you sure? It can wait. Glancing around the room a moment, the disarray made you feel a bit twitchy. You had a feeling that you'd sleep sounder if you took your time cleaning before bed. I did unpack the day I got back. Why do you ask? Yeah. Ma came over too, smiling understandingly. She pulled you into a big hug. All right, you do what you need to. I love you. When you were done hugging Mom pulled you into another hug. Their actions, basically handing you off to the other, had you laughing jovially. I love you so much. I love you too. Aww. They both couldn't resist taking turns hugging you again. Your smile widened. It felt good to be so loved. Good night, kiddo. Sleep tight. Good night, sweetie. Night. After that, your moms headed off towards their bedroom down the hall. You were about to turn the other direction when you heard Mom's voice. And don't let the bed bugs bite. You heard Ma chuckling as you watched them go with a smile. It was a while later when you were finished putting everything away. You didn't rush the process at all. Your sleeping hours may have been cut into, but you felt so much better getting this done. You sighed contentedly, gazing at the organized living room and kitchen. Before you could take a well-earned break on the couch, something out the window caught your eye. Your feet brought you right in front of the large windows spanning the length of the back wall. You stared out into the hills behind your house. As if on cue, your phone came on, alerting you of a new notification. It was Cove. Want to hang out on the hill tonight? Something inside told you that this was the right kind of a night to take a trip out there. You sent him back a very quick message. Yeah. Heart. Oh. You went over to the front door and, stepping over the threshold, you gave the living room one last glance over your shoulder. Then you shut the door behind you. We're even saying goodbye to the house. Silently, you made your way to the Poppy Hill. With light steps in the dark, you walked across the hills behind your house. Up ahead at the very top, silhouetted beneath the night sky, was a familiar figure already waiting there. Smiling, you wondered just how he always got there first. You even had the advantage of living closer. Then again, and maybe it was only in your mind, but somehow Cove was intrinsically linked with this place. After all these years, it would be weird to scan this horizon and not find him there, as surreal as the shore without the sea. The distance behind you was growing shorter by the second. Hearing the grass and earth crunch under your feet, Cove turned. A grin spread over his face as he saw you. You took your place standing behind him on the crest of the Poppy Hill, looking out over the ocean. Same as you'd done on countless times since you'd first arrived, when you'd found him on this very same spot. Of course they end the game in the same spot it started. Gemstone. He had officially broken the silence, the spell that had held you both in place. You looked at him expectantly. There's something I've always kind of wondered about. He cocked his head, giving you a sidelong glance. What did you think about when we met? I was just a kid you'd never seen before, bawling his eyes out on the hill next to your house. He chuckled, his eyes drifting towards the sea beyond, before flicking back to you. The way his gaze pulled back to you made it clear that he was genuinely invested in the topic. Luckily for him, you remembered what initially struck you in that moment. It was as if it had only happened yesterday. Whoops. Well, I remember noticing the sad look on your face. Cove replicated that frown for you right now, looking grave at your reply. Yeah, I guess that would have been kind of hard to miss.
Sighing a bit, you continued to reminisce about that first meeting.
I also remember feeling bad about what was happening. I remember that too.
He ran a hand through his hair, and you knew his line of questioning wasn't at an end, even before he spoke again.
Do you remember what you thought about me? You know, as a person. Was I annoying or mean or...
I thought you were special somehow. Cove brought a hand to his mouth, half hiding his self-conscious smile. His wavy eyebrows were raised in open amazement.
Oh, thank you for feeling that way.
He scrunched his eyes closed, regretting his phrasing.
That sounded weird. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm glad.
Cove's hand drifted over to the scar on his arm, his fingers unconsciously gliding over the mark. It was much less noticeable than it had been when the neon pink cast had first come off, shrunken gradually over the years as his body healed, then dwarfed in comparison to his growing body. Still, his fingers came back to it without thinking. He gave a half smile, not meeting your eyes.
I feel bad now. The thoughts I had were, well, considering what you were thinking, I came across as a lot worse of a kid.
You didn't like me?
No, it definitely wasn't that.
Cove lifted his head up, finally committing to meet your eyes fully once more.
I remember you that day. I remember it really well. I don't think I'd ever be able to forget. I can picture the way you looked back then when I first saw you standing. I can picture the way you looked back then when I first saw you standing right here. I still know the expression on your face when you chose to sit with me in the grass.
He chuckled self-derisively, interrupting his own monologue.
You scared me at first. I figured I'd be alone out here until I had to face my dad again. Then suddenly another kid appeared out of nowhere. It was startling, but I got over that fast. You were a strange person in a strange place, but in that moment, you were exactly what I needed. Somebody I could talk to freely about what was happening and how it made me feel. And you listened to me. You stayed with me.
He sighed, then bit his lip as he gave a small smile.
I was a little bit spoiled growing up.
You let him continue. He looked off again, seeking clarity for his thoughts in the expanse of the night sky.
What I'm trying to say is, when I was younger, I viewed myself basically as the center of the universe. I didn't even imagine it wasn't like that. Things didn't simply happen. That would be weird according to my little kid brain. It made far more sense that everything in my life had a specific connection to me somehow, right?
He sought affirmation in you, wavy brows raised as he tried to explain his childlike logic.
So at the time, you felt almost unreal. Like you weren't just anyone. Some other kid who happened to live in the neighborhood with your own whole life that wasn't connected to Cove Holden. No. To me, you were there so that you could find me when I was lost. Though it turns out you were there for that. You were trying to find me because something had sent you specifically to do that. I just didn't expect it to be my dad. I guess he knew more about what I needed than I thought.
He chuckled, shaking his head as he shook off the thought.
I kind of expected it all to vanish, like a dream when that night was over. I would wake up and everything would be the same again. I'd be back in my bed at home, my real home, with both my parents. The future was something I couldn't picture anymore. I didn't know what school would be like when I went back, or the table where I'd eat breakfast the next morning, or anything. And if I couldn't imagine it, how could I think it was something actually happening? I couldn't grasp my new reality. It was too big for me to hold all at once. So I never thought I'd see you again.
Then Cove beamed at you, his eyes shining bright.
And I never, ever would have been able to guess that 10 years later, when I was a grown-up, the two of us would still be together.
Mere words couldn't encompass the joy you felt. You smiled.
Cove returned it fully, sharing your delight. But the smile faded from his face as his eyebrows drew together. That was the worst day of my life at the time. The day my family broke apart. It was too heavy for me to even think about. I felt that way for I don't know how long. He held a hand over his heart, connecting them with the pain he'd felt as a child, and looked at you earnestly. But that was never really true. Things have only gotten better with me and with Dad and Mom. It was the change we all needed. His eyes were growing misty. So when I remember that time right now, it's not the point that my life was over. It was only the moment I met the woman I love. Oh, when I was crying to a stranger over what I'd thought I'd lost. I didn't have any idea that she would be the one thing in the world that I actually wouldn't be able to live without. I love you. He took in a breath, forever amazed whenever you spoke those words. I love you too, Gemstone. Then you hugged him. You reached out to wrap your arms around Cove. He opened his arms and clasped you to his chest. His grip was tight and reassuring. Cove sighed contently. His voice was as delicate as the petals on the poppies which crowned this hill. Hey, Gemstone? I'm so grateful you always took care of me. You didn't even know what to say back to that. His heartfelt appreciation left you speechless. He tilted his head up, thoughts lost in the sparse clouds above. I wonder how late it is. I guess it doesn't really matter. My dad is fine with me being out whenever. He quietly nodded. Mr. Holden was content giving Cove all the freedom he could. It's so noisy. Apologies for all the background noise. Are you going to lay in the grass now? Wow, how'd you know? Lucky guess, Cove. With a chuckle, Cove plopped down onto the ground and laid on his back. His usual way of spending time there. It was sat on his chest. You laid down and snuggled against him. You lowered yourself against Cove's side in the grass and wrapped an arm over his chest. Cove smiled at you and used his free hand to cradle your face. The both of you fully settled in to relax on the hill. It felt like just the beginning of one of your nightly outings. But then you realized the sun was peeking out over the horizon. Cove spoke up with a disbelieving tone. It really was late. Your neighbor wasn't a stranger to being awake at dawn. However, not like this. He was normally an early sleeper or early riser. This unexpected sunrise particularly awed him. The two of you watched on silently as the sun began to light the world. Cove then propped himself up on the back of his arms and looked at you with a soft expression on his face. Do you want to go back home? I could carry you if you're too tired. I'd rather stay a little longer. You couldn't resist a yawn, but you were serious. It couldn't be time to go already. I'm resisting. Cove chuckled. Dang it. I tried so hard. Cove chuckled affectionately and gripped you a little more. Okay, but it's been a long day. We've done a lot of things. Like, really a lot. It has to end sometime. Since when were you okay with things ending? This is so Sam. That made him laugh again. It was a fair question. Since you made me feel better about it. And we can still stay if you want to. Cove smiled brightly at you, as warm as the new rays of sun that were tickling your skin. In that moment, you couldn't have appreciated him being there more. You kissed him. You moved your face toward Cove and forward. You moved your face forward and gave Cove a small kiss. He tilted his head against yours. Good morning, Cove. He gave you a bent smile and went for the opposite sentiment. Good night, Gemstone. The two of you remained together on that familiar poppy hill where you first met, until the world began to fade and blur. You were falling asleep. A few more gentle words drifted into your consciousness. I'll see you tomorrow. Didn't want to click it. I didn't want to click it.
Your eyelids dipped, but you felt good. You were safe and relaxed. Everything that had come before this had reassured you of that. You were confident that when you opened you were confident that when you opened them again, things would be okay. Oh. You opened your eyes. Instead of the walls of your room, you were surrounded by open sky. It was not soft pillows and sheets underneath you, but the bed of earth and grass that you'd taken last night. The day welcomed you with a shining sun, a refreshing breeze, and the chirping song of birds. You cupped your face with your hands as you sat up, feeling the imprint of the blades of grass leaving lines into your cheeks.
Gemstone.
Hearing your name, you lowered your hands and looked around. There he was, your most influential neighbor, Cove Holden. Oh! He had made himself very comfortable, laying on his stomach with jewelry and shoes taken off, and a flower in his hand.
Oh, it's so cute. Oh! Good morning.
He's so adorable. Good morning to you too. Cove laughed, tickled with the overall situation, and simply being able to spend more time like this.
Told you I'd see you tomorrow.
I'm glad you were right.
Oh, he's so cute.
I'm so sad. I don't want it to end. Cove's face lit up in a broad grin.
Me too. But there wasn't really any doubt.
Cove turned his head up to the sky, his expression content.
Looks like it's gonna be a nice day. We'll have to come up with something to do to make the most of it.
He trailed off, blinking slowly in the sunlight.
Someday, when we're even older than we are now, I wonder what we'll end up remembering this moment for. What will we feel when we look back at it? Will it be the same as what we're feeling right now? I can't see what the future is gonna look like again, but I think that's alright.
I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Cove turned back to you, nodding in full agreement. He eyed the hill sprawling out before you, and down below, where the wild hill and nature gave way to civilization. Your home and Cove's lay down at the bottom, neatly filed among the other houses in the neighborhood.
Hey, Gemstone. I bet I can beat you in getting back to the road.
You laughed, amused by the wager that reminded you of so many moments in your youth.
As much as I like it here, it's okay if we leave now. We can always come back and see the poppies and the fireflies again, right?
Cove met your eyes, waiting for what you were going to say in response. It really is going to be another nice day. He didn't know where that came from, but Cove blinked slowly, his eyes still locked on you. Though you didn't need to see his face to know that he adored you. If there had been any room for doubt, the tender way he spoke would have filled it up.
You're one of a kind, huh?
He put his foot up. Cove beamed at you. His expression was so unlike the one he'd worn when you first found him here, swaddled in sadness and uncertainty. Yet you couldn't help but glimpse that boy once more, underneath his bright expression and matured features.
Come on.
He offered you a hand. You accepted it, your palm fitting around his. Cove lifted himself up, pulling you along too.
Oh. Our parents probably aren't going to come running for us this time. We've got to make our own call.
And I say that we can't hide away forever. Poppy Hill is just one part of things.
There's more out there for us than this time and this place alone. Let's enjoy it.
You couldn't say whether you were the one that broke into a run if Cove had been... You couldn't say whether you were the one that had broken into a run if Cove had been the one to start it, or if your feet had simultaneously made that choice for you both. The end result was the same, with the two of you dashing down the hill like children,
but with the nostalgic revelry that could only come as an adult. As the wind whipped past you, you knew that family and friends were waiting at the end of your sprint. There were more memories to make after all. Life takes another step forward. Oh, thank you, GB Patch Games. What a wonderful story. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. What a beautiful game. Oh, that was such a lovely story. Ah. Absolutely wonderful. That was such a beautiful game. It was so cute. All these people are absolutely wonderful for creating something like this. Ah. What a lovely time. I am going to do art for this. I absolutely have to. Of course. Probably I have several ideas for it. We'll see. I'll do some sketches. We'll figure it out, but this was such a wonderful game. So thank you so much for suggesting and watching and joining along. This has been such a lovely experience. Thank you so much for ever trying this. Thank you for joining and thank you for suggesting it. I have had such a wonderful time with this game. I hope to do more games like this in the future, so let me know. If you put it on Twitter or something, don't feel bad for @GBPatchGames. They love all the art they make and also this game. Heck yeah. Thank you for playing it, you silly gem. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you all had a wonderful time like I did. I'm just gonna go ahead and get back to the menu. Thank you for all the supporters, because obviously they made this all possible. There are so many. Oh, thank you for playing. Huh? In between? What is this? Wait, what? Surprised there's a step 4? Wait a sec, wait. Okay, is this... don't worry about... Don't worry... Wait, is there more? Wait a sec. Okay, I need you to be straight with me. Is there actually more, or are we just making our end look? This is a bit more. Okay, well, epilogue stuff. Okay, how long is it? Because I've been streaming for nearly 4 hours, but... should we just finish it out? Yes, there's more. You'll need another stream to get through it, though. Okay. Alright, I'll wait till next time. Well, thank you all for joining me on this very long stream. I hope that you've had fun. I certainly have. I thought it was the ending. I was so happy and satisfied with it, but there's more, which makes me even happier. So we're gonna see that next stream. We're gonna finish this off for real, probably, maybe, depends if I work and how long and etc. Anyway, but thank you so much for joining. I hope that you've enjoyed it thus far. It's been absolutely wonderful. But that's gonna be all for today, so thank you as well, Potato. Thank you, Nintendiot, and all who have joined. But farewell, and have a wonderful day.